Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. It's a Tuesday night edition, and we're going to have Melinda Leslie, one of my favorite guests in here. We're going to get into underground alien bases and the conspiracy of UFOs. It's going to be really great. Melinda is one of the best, but also what's really great is having each and every one of you here nightly. So if you're new here, do us a favor, hit subscribe, ring that bell, because we are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. So who's in? Well, let's take a little bit of a look here, shall we? And let us say hello first to Kitty Catty Whack at the gold medal position. 11, 11, 11, 11 in the silver. And Mel WD-40 lubing up the bronze medal tonight. Thank you, Mel. As we continue on with our roll call, there is race fan Jeremy Jones, Robert Lamoth. Good to have you all here. T-Bone, my man. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. At JSCO, thanks for coming on in. Thunderhead is here. Thunderhead will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, nice to have you here. As we continue on with our roll call, T-Bone all happy over the baseball game tonight. Tip your cap, T-Bone. You deserve it tonight. And B and Necessary Dialogue, nice to see you. Little Cam on YouTube did 58 squats of 1,200 pounds. 58 squats of 1,200 pounds on his back. Oh, his legs are killing him, but he's here tonight. That's right. All right, moving on here. We got Paramarv. Nice to see you. And who is next on our list? It's Eternity Eternal and Mark Eddy. Cosmic Joe, how are you, my friend? As we continue on with our roll call here, Operation Shutdown. Good to have you here as well. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Alpine Fur, nice to see you again. Lars Janssen. Oh, I did that totally wrong. I forget how to do it all of a sudden. I'm having a brain freeze here. Number 3 in your program tonight, starting on defense from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Janssen. There, I got it. Sorry, Lars. I know you like to be introduced. Shell Heaton is here. Shell Heaton will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Creepy Pasta, Frankie B, Undead Jet, how are you guys? Thank you for coming on in. Jay Trueseeker, nice to see you. Kitty, thank you so much for once again kicking off the super chat. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much. Aussie Boss Tiger, how are you tonight? Lisa Smith, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, good morning, Skip to my Lou. Hi, Pam Harris. And Sweet Donna C, nice to see you both. Algaray on Twitch, 3,000 sit-ups in under 4 minutes to prepare for Melinda tonight. He's ready. He is totally ready. And let's scroll on down. Who do we have next on our list? It's Carol Amerio. How are you? Mickey G, thanks for coming on in. And Glenn John McEnroe is here, the pride of Wimbledon. Vanessa, nice to see you. Kurt M, and I'm a Hardcore over on X. Thanks for coming on in. Bobbert, nice to have you here. Krim Sang, welcome. How you doing? And Athena, nice to see you. And who else do we have here? Well, let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Melinda Leslie is our guest, and we're going to have a great time talking UFOs and alien underground bases tonight with Melinda. Coming up here momentarily, we are on roll call on our YouTube side as we say hi to Super Crazy. Nice to see you. And Science Bob isn't on until next month. Not on until next month. Let's see here. Let's see. Scrolling on down. We're caught up. Oh, Nina Williams popped in. Hi, Nina Williams. Hey, I want to remind everybody the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. You can also join our YouTube chat and our membership there. And, of course, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. No ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a great show coming up for you tonight. You ever think there would be underground alien bases? Melinda Leslie is here to talk about those and the ET contact that's happening around the world right now. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller joins us with another creepy story. We're going to follow that one up with the Q&A, the cryptid Q&A. Robin Haynes will be here to get things going, to finish up the show. UFO researcher and experiencer Melinda Leslie takes us into a deep dive into the shadowy world of UFOs, underground bases, and government cover-ups. With over 30 years in the UFO field, Melinda has exposed the hidden connections between alien abduction programs, secret military operations, and advanced reverse engineering projects said to take place beneath classified installations. Her powerful testimony bridges the gap between ET contact, covert intelligence, and human-alien collaboration, revealing a reality far stronger than science fiction. And I love her to death. From Sedona, Arizona, Melinda Leslie, it is always good to have my beautiful friend on this show. How are you?
Doing great, Dave. How are you? It's so good to be here.
I've missed you. I'm not going to lie.
Ah, you're a sweetheart. I miss you too.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I appreciate you coming back on the show. We like to have you on about 3-4 times a year in order to kind of keep us up to date with what's going on in the UFO world. For people who may not be familiar with you, Melinda, explain your story and how this has become a lifelong passion and desire to bring out the truth about UFOs.
Well, let me see. As you know, Dave, it's complicated. I've been in the UFO field for 36 years now. And what a ride it's been. I research a couple of different areas of research. I am an abduction experiencer and contactee, and just started my whole discovery process of learning that in 1989. I'm now owner of UFO sighting tours in Sedona, Arizona, where I take people out with military night vision goggles to have sightings. And last night, Dave, was tour number 2067. So 2067.
Wow.
That's how many tours I've done.
Why do you do it? What's
Well, I was gonna say because I'm nuts. I don't know. Why do I do it? Well, I suppose there's a couple of reasons. One is because I want to show people the truth. I want people to see, that UFOs are real. We're not alone. And I love showing that to people, and I love watching their responses. I won't lie, I make a living doing it too with the tours. But a lot of my other research, I don't. I'm lucky if, for instance, if I get asked to speak somewhere, if they cover, my expenses, for instance, I'm lucky. So, but I do that to get the information out, get, the knowledge out there.
right?
And yeah, and I do it to educate people. I do it, certainly the abduction research and the MILABS research is to help people who've had those experiences. I don't know, I'm like driven to show people it's real. On my tours, I want it to be absolutely real. I want people to really see it and go, okay, I know this is real. And with our underground base here, they're seeing stuff come and go from that area and the evidence for that. And then they know, okay, that there's this government involvement with it. And we're reverse engineering technology, and we have an interaction with the ETs, and all those things are so important to me. And so yeah, there we go. So kind of a long answer to your question, but I'm very much driven to prove it to people. And I have to tell you, Dave, now that you're asking it that way too, I was just thinking, I think part of the reason I'm driven to prove it to people is because of my own personal experiences. Like my proverbial, chip on the shoulder, if you will, is like, I want people to know it's real, like I know it's real, and that's part of the drive behind that, for sure.
You've been in this field for almost 40 years. You've seen it change from the point. And I don't mean that to age you. I
know.
But you have seen so many changes from the days of when people such as yourself or Stanton Friedman or Steve Bassett would come out and say, we just need one person to come out, just one. And now we've had a treasure trove of people come out. We've seen it go from UFO to UAP. We've seen unprecedented media coverage on this. And we just seem like we are no further ahead of trying to prove or disprove this. Now, a lot of people will disagree with that statement.
I was going to disagree with you on that.
What's that?
I think we are further ahead. And I'll tell you how I know. I could know that through a lot of ways, but I'll tell you what really is demonstrated by my clients I take out every night. And that's in 15 years of doing my tours to reach 2067 completed tours. I've seen over the 15 years people's attitude change, and the difference that was it 2017 made going forward. And so what became the modern disclosure movement stuff. And the awareness that people have and their acceptance of this subject has grown exponentially. And particularly when we get real serious media attention to it. Now, is the media still, falling way short on that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Present company excluded, of course, but the mainstream media. But there is an increase, and when it hits things like whether it's Joe Rogan or whether it's Ross Coulthard on News Nation or whether it's Cuomo on News Nation or even the stuff that they're running on Fox before, and et cetera, that you go, wait a second, there's an increase in acceptance, an increase in knowledge. And from when I was in the field 36 years ago, it's night and day. It's night and day. And what I've seen over the last 15 years of doing this, let alone since 2017. So I see it in my clients. I see it in their attitude. I see it in talking to people out there in the public, and people I meet in Sedona or people I meet in other places, and my own family's interest and knowledge. It's definitely been a huge increase. Definitely.
On a publicity level, I would agree with you. But I'm saying on foraging for information, we still get the same hangups, the same holdups, the same cross stories. I mean, hell, even in the first, the first hearings that we had about an 114-year-old politician asking if it was swamp gas.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying this to sound negative or derogatory, but the stigma is still there that is holding back the further information, the real proof of it all.
But Dave, my point was not in the public. Yeah. Are you surprised? Yeah. Congress is behind the, is it behind the game? I mean, oops, sorry. I think I've got allergy stuff going on. Would you be surprised at that? No, it's like, and so it's a shame we're looking to Congress for answers and moving forward on this when my general public and the people I talk to every day are more notified, so it's like, we got to bring those people up to speed. Now, that's not all of them. And certainly folks on the task force are making a difference, and they're starting to ask the right questions. And I can think of Burchett and Burleson, making a difference. So, and some of the others, but again, it's like, you're right, because in those hearings, there's some older guys on there and not the people on the task force. And they ask embarrassing questions, and they're not bothering to learn before they go in with questions for these people. I think they're relying on their staffers, and their staffers aren't knowledgeable or interested. It's not what they're researching all the time. But see, even that's changing. So look, I've been in the field, as we just said, 36 years. I never dreamt I would see this in my life. I never dreamt that I would see this Congress having hearings, the task force looking into it, laws passing or trying to pass, like the UAPDA, et cetera. It's a big difference. And is it all changing as fast as we want? Of course not. But for someone like me who's been in the field 36 years, I'm like, okay, this is progress, and it's speeding up. So is it frustrating right now? But it's getting better, and I foresee it getting better. I think it's gone far enough down the road that it's not, we're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. The genie's not going back in the bottle. I think it's out, and it's going to continue. It's just at what speed. And I think it's going to happen like it's been happening. A whole bunch of things going on, and then all of a sudden it levels off. And then a whole bunch going on, and then it levels off. All you need, Burleson's trying to put forth this standalone bill that I don't know if you caught any of the New Paradigm Institute's World Disclosure Day event, but there was this panel midway through, and anyone who watched that, you got to just fast forward to the panel situation. I highly recommend it. Go on New Paradigm's website and fast forward into where the panel, with looks like the Brady Bunch, all the different faces, right? And we go into that part because Burleson immediately goes, look, we're, and he was really cute. He's doing the panel from in the car with his kids in the back seat, obviously on a road trip. But this is, Congressman Burleson saying we're putting forth the stand alone bill to give protection to whistleblowers and some of the other things we want. And it's being extremely well received on both sides of the House and Senate, and he says, I think this is going to pass. And is it everything that was wanted in the UAPDA? Maybe not, but it's still a step in the right direction. It will still be the House passing a bill if in fact it passes. But when he said he's, talking to both sides and it's looking good, so that was a bit of good news. That was reassuring. And again, is not everyone's attitudes are changing. And what will make a difference with that? All this moving forward and more serious media attention. It's already making inroads, but you get more media on board, more serious mainstream media attention, asking the right kind of questions. And this will speed up with that attention. And I think that's coming. I think we're already seeing it. And like I said, genie ain't going back in the bottle. This will keep going.
Do you believe still in disclosure?
Yes. I mean, disclosure means different things to different people, of course, and even those people doing it. I think disclosure, an ultimate disclosure, the ultimate truth is a ways down the road, but I think it happens in stages. So it depends on how you're defining disclosure. I mean, one person's idea is not another person's, so you go, okay, if we're talking about them, they've already said UFOs are real, so we're already there. As that grows in momentum, if they start getting into crash retrievals, the biologics, whistleblowers beyond just people saying, oh, there was the triangle right over my head, which is valid, but going into folks who said, I was involved in a crash retrieval recovery or in a reverse engineering program, those kind of things. And I think that's coming. And I think as soon as there's laws and whistleblower protections, that's when we're going to really start opening up the floodgates on that. So I think it's coming. And we'll get that. But is it the full thing? Is it, alien abductions are happening and they're creating hybrids and, no, we're not getting that yet.
Okay.
Will we eventually? Yeah, I think we will, because one thing leads to another and people will ask the next question, the harder questions. And already that's another thing that happened in that World Disclosure Day, that those things came up in the conversation, which I did not expect. And I was happy to hear it and happy to see, it takes this community openly talking about these things first and openly looking at how far along things really are. If we can't talk about, we're not going to be able to expect the insiders, Congress, the House, the Senate, or the White House, or the media to give it attention. So, and we have to tell them it's okay to do so, like we always have. But,
okay. But Melinda,
I just feel like it's coming. I do, Dave. I feel like it's coming. And again, it's not, is it the ultimate, that here's everything on a platter? No, I think that'll take a lot of time.
Okay.
But
Brandon Fugel from Skinwalker Ranch, he put out a tweet in response to another tweet by Joe Mergia the other day, basically saying he thinks disclosure is dead. Disclosure at the government level, and he believes that disclosure has to come from the private citizens, such as you, me, the public who are listening, okay, that we're going to be the ones who are able to get this thing going and get it out there better than any government agency or military would. And he's blaming the full-on aspect of the military-industrial complex for killing this.
No, I don't think it's dead. I could see the frustration. He may be basing it, again, the New Paradigm Institute event, the World Disclosure Day, had Richard Dolan and Carl Nell speaking, and Carl Nell and Dolan too, were being kind of pessimistic, which was nice. Right after them came the panel where Burleson said, no, we have this standalone thing going through. If that goes through, that's going to help. And the fact that he and other Congress people are trying to make that happen shows it's not dead. That's at the government level. They're actually trying to do something. And if that passes, that will help. So it's not dead. And I'm glad that came after the comments by Carl Nell. And a lot of people are quoting the Carl Nell stuff, but they didn't then watch the panel. And I'm telling people, no, you got to hear what Burleson says right afterwards to say Carl was wrong, kind of thing. So I think more is coming down. Look, I'm also a psychic and intuitive, and I'll go with that part too, and an experiencer. No, nothing's going away. And this is increasing. It'll continue to increase, and you can get hung up on one minor negative thing, like the Carl Nell comments are saying, but you can step back and go, what's really going on? What's the big picture? Is the House or any of those people in the committee dropping it? Hell no. Is the media dropping it? No. There's no sign of Coulthard dropping it anytime soon, or anybody associated with him. He put that network on the map, So you go, wait a second, So
I agree with you on that. I don't think the story is going away, but I think there is a push in Washington, D.C. right now to try and get this swept back under the rug.
Yeah. No. Are there naysayers? Yeah. Are there big corporations? Oh, I was going to get into that in my thing today with the underground bases and the reverse engineering. Are there big corporations involved who'd rather not have this come out? Sure, they've always been there. But all it takes is for instance, Congress to say, where's the money going? And why did we lose control of that? Why did we lose the approval process? How did we hand that off? How did that happen? And how do we get that back, get that control back? And I don't think that's going away. Even though, other naysayers, everything's percentages. I've always said this in this stuff. And you go, it's not, you guys, first off, I've been saying this a lot lately in a lot of different contexts and interviews. Two things can be correct at the same time. So you can say, is there opposition? Yes, there always has been. Right now, what's the loudest voice? And when I say right now, I mean this year. And you say it is the pro-disclosure movement's the louder voice than the opposition. And you can have one day of a negative comment and everybody's tails get, everybody gets all spun around and their tail feathers get all bunched up. And then you go, wait a second. You have to step back and go, what's actually been happening for months, And so, and I can see, I have a unique barometer in that I talk to John Q. Public every bleeping day. And they're not like preaching the choir and all people that follow it. They're people who see it on the news or hear something or have their own saying or whatever, and they want to see if it's true. And then I get a lot of looky-loo. I get a lot of very skeptical people on my tours. I get a majority of skeptical people. It's maybe there's one person on every other tour that follows the subject to any degree or knows anything or has had a sighting. And the rest of the people are just there going, is it real? But they're asking. And they come. But what I see is the interest going up. And the fact that they say, I want to have a sign because I heard it on the news. I saw this. I heard it on the radio. I saw it in print, and they ask, or I heard a congressman saying something. So now they want to see it for themselves because then they know it's real when they see it for themselves. But I'm just seeing that interest level. Again, in 15 years, the interest level's gone from year to year. Like,
I would agree with you on that. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Melinda Leslie is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And when we return from the break, we are going to get into underground bases. Where are they hidden? What's being hidden underground? Are they military? Are they alien? Are they a combination of both? We're going to find out. Melinda Leslie, right here on Spaced Out Radio, 36 years in the field of ufology. She's still pushing hard. We'll be right back. All right, we are clear. Just for everybody, announcement for everybody, if you're staying up late after the show, I am going to be joining Sandy Diva on the Mandela Effect show after this. I'm going to go on there for about, 15, 20 minutes or so right after the show here. So if you want to tune on in after we're done here over there, that would be great. Go hit subscribe to her channel too. She's a sweetheart.
Before you this afternoon, maybe you knew this. I was on an X Spaces for like 3.5 hours with Science Bob.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Bob hosted it. A couple other people helped him, and they had me talking about underground base and everything. And it went on for about 3.5 hours. It was a long one.
Nice.
But it's up on X, you guys. It's saved, and you can go under me or Science Bob, or you'll find it. But it was. I think it went well. I haven't really heard from anyone. If anyone in here heard it, let us know. But I think it went well. It seemed well received.
Did. You guys probably had a smashing show.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go in with any notes or anything, but I did have, like 5 talking points I wanted to hit, and the rest was just kind of riffing. Of course, every answer I have to something in every experience or, whatever, they take so long to share. It's just, me, it just takes a long time. I do. And, but no, it seemed to go well. I should text Brian, or I don't know if Bob's still up. He might be. I should text Bob and Brian. Well, of course Brian Jackson. I should text him. He was in there. Quite a few people I knew were in there. I could text them and say, "How did you think it went?" But it was fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. I'm glad you had a good time.
What are you talking about on your the interview you're doing tonight?
I don't know. She just wants me to come on and bullshit.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we're gonna do. I got nothing planned.
Not like you want me to do.
I'm literally going to be editing the show and having fun with them. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. I would agree. I would totally agree.
I went and ate between the X Spaces and now.
Did you go to Taco Bell?
The server, what?
Did you go to Taco Bell?
No, sorry. No, didn't. I had a great turkey and cranberry sandwich somewhere. It was really good though.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and so, but I was talking to them and said what I'd done and what I was going to be doing with this. And I said, I look forward to doing this right now, because that Bob wanted me just kind of go with, and I didn't go in with any notes, whatever. And I thought it was going to be more of a discussion. He wanted me to share my research and updates and what was going on with it. And I did, but it kind of, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. It was kind of work for that reason. And I was telling the server, I said, I look so forward to going and doing this interview with Dave, because you get to ask the questions and I get to relax.
1 second here, Melinda. Hello to Red Frog. Welcome to SOR chat. Chaz, how you doing? And Erica Stover, nice to see you. Blue Cruz, good to have you here. Yeah, YouTube reset all of the names for everybody, apparently. Hi, Tina Smith. That's why you see the numbers on there. So you have to go into your account and change them. Carrie Doyle, how are you? Nice to see you. Who else is joining us here? We're done at midnight. So we got 2.5 more hours to go before the show tonight.
Dave, how long am I on till?
You have 90 minutes.
Hour and a half more. Okay.
Yeah. It's because we love you. So we're holding you. Broken Shadow Feather, how are you? Nice to see you, buddy.
So I'm over at I see what time it is.
Stephen Drysdale, how are you? That's a good NHL name. Stephen Drysdale. That's a good hockey name.
Am I on to 11? Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're on to 11.
Okay. We got to be able to do some damage in that amount of time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you tonight to Stargazer ×2, Kitty Caddywhack, and T-Bone again, showing the light and donating a membership on our YouTube channel. Thank you, T-Bone. We love you for that. And we're coming back in like 12
I
seconds.
glance at the comments every once in a while if somebody has a question for me.
All right. And here we go, everybody. Hold on, Melinda. Here comes the second half hour, Spaced Out Radio. Are there aliens living underground on Earth? We're about to find out. Melinda Leslie is our guest tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are so happy to be here with all of you, hanging on out and talking about these great subjects that we love. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Melinda Leslie is here. She's an experiencer. She's a researcher. She's a very popular voice of the UFO community. She's been doing it for almost 40 years, and we love it when she takes time out for us. Melinda, thank you for being here.
Sure, Dave. No problem. Thank you for having me.
How do we know, let's just get right to it, about these underground bases where aliens are hiding?
Well, first off, it's always been there in the UFO field. Different researchers have talked about from time to time. Most notably, as far as the one who became most famous for doing just that kind of research was Dr. Richard Sauter. And, it's always been there. And when I moved to Sedona 15 years ago, I already knew about the existence of the base going back easily another 10 years before that. So for at least 25 years. And then when I moved here, I had an experience that involved it. So that kind of was a catalyst. And then 2 years ago, everything about my tours changed. I've been doing this for 15 years to reach 2067, but the first 13 years, the sightings slowly built. It was consistent. I had a lot of return clients, referrals. It was, business was great. And the sightings were fairly consistent, but it did kind of increase over time. And then all of a sudden, September 27th, 2023, everything changed when we suddenly saw something new going on. And that was craft coming over, meaning UFOs, coming over the location of where we have this base, and then coming and going behind the hills where the base is. And we had never seen that on my tour. And a lot of military helicopters coming in to the area and swarming prior to all this activity picking up. And, and obviously in direct relationship to it, quite a few military helicopters when we had never seen that before. And so suddenly it started happening every night. And over time, I realized there were other researchers in town researching information about the base and people's experiences with it and the sightings. And I realized, okay, there's a group of us that are all independently doing stuff. And I reached out to everybody to say, look, I'm seeing all this go on, and there's obviously an increased activity. What do you guys know, kind of thing? And I realized we all had people with we all had our accounts of sightings and witnesses to having sightings. We all had accounts of people having run-ins with the military out in our canyons. We all had insiders that were coming forward talking to us. We all had evidence of certain locations with the base and entrances to it. And again, the run-ins with the guards in those locations and people who had seen convoys of military vehicles. And I realized we all had a lot of evidence individually. And if we combine that, it was a much bigger story than we had realized. Like it was like, wait a second, this is, and the significance that all that information would have for disclosure, because what it says about what's really going on going on with like reverse engineering legacy programs and corporate aerospace, government contractors involved, and the depth of the cover up and the depth of the reverse engineering, and how much we've really developed and how far that technology really is, and our relationship with the ETs and working with the ETs in these underground bases. I said in another interview I did earlier today, I said, I have all these things I know from my MILAB abduction cases, people I've worked with, and my own experiences with it, to the degree that I knew we were working with the ETs and developing technology. But now seeing it burst into kind of high gear in what we're witnessing here, and it just has kind of exploded it into saying, wait a second, and realizing this is something, Dave, you probably know this from guests on your show and other people, that the most serious, researchers in the field think, oh, well, the government only has a handful of functioning reverse engineered. And then there are even a few people that say we don't have ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. And then the people who say, well, maybe we have some, but it's a handful. And I used to be one of those people that, thought, oh, the best insider accounts is we have a handful. And now I'm realizing it's extensively more than that. It's we maybe have two handfuls at each location, of which there, and those of us on the team investigating, the team of people now, because I said all these people doing independent research, I kind of gathered everyone together and said, we need to share data. This is a bigger story than any of us have individually when we combine our stuff together. And now they all agree that it's like, oh, you have that, and you have that, and you have that witness, and you have that evidence. And we go, whoa, wait, we have a lot more. When we combine it together, we were all doing independent research and getting different things. Yes, some of it was crossover, but not that much. A lot of it was separate stuff. So then realizing, okay, this is a bigger story. And the reverse engineering is much further along. No, we're not saying here that all of what we're seeing is reverse engineered. No, the team now feels very strongly the majority of what we're seeing is still ET or non-human intelligence. But we are also seeing some stuff that's probably ours. And then we also say as a team, the investigation into this underground installation here in Sedona just represents, we see it as like a case study for other such facilities with the same stuff. And there are, and we hear other counts, and other researchers of those other facilities are saying they're seeing the same kind of things go on there that we're seeing here now. In other words, all these other facilities have an increase in activity. And you start to go, what are we preparing for? What's going on? Why is there this huge increase? Why are these bases a lot more active? And I think it's a story that no one in the field is really addressing. Sometimes I feel like I'm shouting into the wind here, no one's addressing this. And they'll go, oh, well, maybe we have a couple handful. And then you have, Dr. Art Davis saying there are no ARVs. And it's like bullshit. Pardon my language. If you have to beep that out, I'm sorry. I will not do that again. Forget I'm on radio. But it's like, yeah, there's more. And it speaks to how far along you're talking. Multiple large underground installations throughout the world and throughout the US, with ETs and humans working together, with extensive reverse engineering programs, which is developing the extraterrestrial technology, and the ETs teaching us even how to do it. And the development of psi, because you can't fly or function a craft without the psionics, without the psi. And so it's like this is all going on. And again, we're here, we're located here, the team, this base is outside our back door. We're able to investigate it and meet whistleblowers and insiders and the witnesses and get stories all the time of people having the run-ins with the guards and seeing the military convoys and vehicles go down into these canyons, et cetera, et cetera. I go on and on. But we feel like, again, that this is just a case study for other such facilities. And I'm starting to hear it from other people, our friend Katie Page,
yes,
they're in Colorado, they're having stuff happen, and other places. Karen Hill says outside of Tucson, they're seeing a bunch of stuff. I've heard a few other things here and there from other locations. Someone just was talking about an increase in activity out near Dugway. Somebody was just speaking about that in Utah. So
these underground bases that you allegedly have in Arizona, are they having craft come in and out of them? Like, do we kind of know the locations of where they are?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. First off, we have extensive evidence that this is a complex tunnel system with tunnels branching out, covering easily at least 10, if not 20 miles in multiple directions. So it's an extensive tunnel system. The evidence is starting to suggest it may be more than one facility, like not one main thing, but a couple of things interlaced with this complex tunnel system. You just hear alone, just within that 20-mile radius. We have some pretty good evidence of different locations to the tunnel. Like different entrances. And some of them are like doorways and stairs and, where people can just go in and out. And some of them are places where maybe vehicles can come in and out, kind of thing. But we have the knowledge of where some of those are. It's not like, oh, well, anyone just go there and check it out then. No, you have to hike off trail through thick pine forest and you have to rock climb, and it's 10 miles. Like rock climbing in heavy pine forests. They're not easy to get to. And a few of them that we think are tunnel entrances where major convoys of military vehicles and semi trucks and stuff go down. Those are in 24-hour armed guard areas. That you would have to have access into that area to be able to check that out. But
now, going back to the 1990s, one of my favorite stories ever comes from Dulce, New Mexico, the Phil Schneider incident.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that there is a tie to
that last lecture, that famous last talk that he gave?
Well, first off, before we get too much into it, Melinda, before we get too much into it, let's explain to our audience who Phil Schneider was. They may not be familiar.
Well, you go.
I was waiting for you.
Oh, well, let me see. I forget, I know the story. Was he a guard or a scientist working?
He was a government scientist. He was a geologist, I believe.
A geologist, but working at Dulce.
Yes.
New Mexico. And tells the story of a fight between guards and aliens at Dulce.
Yeah, underneath the ground. And that he was zapped by an alien beam, which took off a bunch of fingers on his one hand.
Yes.
And put a hole in his torso.
Yes. And
he fired back and apparently killed 2 of these aliens.
Yes. So this is the story. And then as he came out, he caught flack from the government for it and attempts on his life and whatnot. And then he gave a famous last talk at a conference in Vegas at the time, and I was there in the audience for But yeah, so so you brought him up. Why were you bringing him up?
Well, I mean, because he was the one who really put the deep underground alien bases on the map in about 1990s when he started coming out. And it just seems like this subject has taken off where almost every state seems to have one of these underground bases.
Well, I think even before maybe Phil Schneider, there was a gentleman in the field that went by a name of Tal Levesque. His real name was something else. Anyways, long story short, and he was putting out information about like the maps of where these tunnel systems and bases and things were located. And he claimed to have inside contacts and stuff that he was getting that from. So yeah, no, the whole thing, I mean, all of ufology really had a lot of breakthrough and new fresh direction in the 90s, in those early 90s. I got in the field in 1989, but in the early 90s, a lot was going on. And, and you had the Art Bell days back then, talking about it. And the formation of some of the big conferences that started up back then. No, it was a very exciting time to be in the field, and a lot of very, very varying, does that make sense, areas of research, a lot of different areas of research that people were into. So, I think that was always there in the field, but it seemed like there was this real renaissance of it in the 90s and things, major stories, insiders coming forward, and those kind of accounts happening. It certainly, Phil Schneider, and then you go to like Bob Lazar, and because of the underground base stuff surfacing and it becoming part of the topic, then gave birth to Dr. Richard Sauter, who took it upon himself to really do some scholarly research in that direction and write about it.
These bases that apparently are out there, and I believe you when you talk about that. I really do.
Well,
because
I know some of the evidence for this one here. We have a lot of evidence.
Now, you're in Sedona. How close is this one to you?
Well, and actually, part of this other thing earlier, I was talking about the same thing. Okay, first off, it's predominantly like it covers a wide area, but predominantly the heart of it is probably about 10 miles outside of town.
Okay, is that on a military base?
What?
Is that on a military base?
No. It is an area of really, really rugged mountainous terrain, with no trails in around the outside of it. Yes, but in the heart of this area, no trails, no roads, no dirt roads, no structures, and it's roughly an area that, when you include just beyond our hills, there's about a 7-mile area, but then it widens out to maybe, it's hard to say exactly. I'd probably have to do more examination on Google Earth, but widening out to eventually like 10 miles wide, and then going straight back into wilderness about 20 miles. But the closest hills or areas, canyons and hills that have any maybe part of it going on, it's easy to say, 5, 6, 7 miles from town. Although there are parts under the Cottonwood-Clarkdale area. So that's the city of Cottonwood and Clarkdale, just west of Sedona, down 89A, 15 minutes or 15 miles outside town. And there's some stuff there. So that's under part of those cities, more like towns, but you get the idea. And some of the tunnels go over there, But the majority of it, what we feel is the majority of the base, is out under Sycamore Canyon, Secret Canyon, and Government Canyon. You got get this, Dave. Canyon names. So it's Secret Canyon, which is in Secret Mountain Wilderness, and the big mountain there called Secret Mountain. So you have Secret Mountain Wilderness, Secret Canyon. Then you have Sycamore Canyon, but then right behind that, it is a ridge, and then you have what's called Government Canyon. Well, I joking, but not joking, when you hide an underground military base, what's called a DUMB, D-U-M-B, deep underground military base, in a place called, Secret Canyon, Secret Mountain, and Government Canyon, I think you call that hiding in plain sight. I've been meaning to check with the county and find out when were those named, because we have, thanks to Richard Sutter, Freedom of Information Act documentation about there being a base. We have FOIA request documentation that they were going to build an installation out in these canyons over 5,000 feet in depth. So we have documentation for that. And then we have ranchers in the area saying tunnel boring equipment was going down on semi trucks, on flatbeds, and military convoys and flatbeds with giant tunnel boring machine parts going down the dirt roads into our canyons back in early 70s and going back into the 60s. So we need to pinpoint from those stories, how far back. And even though we have FOIA requests that in 1975, they were going to build an installation over 5,000 feet in depth, we have stories from ranchers that suggest it goes back before that, probably into the 60s. So this goes back. So then I need to find out when were these canyons named, Secret Canyon, Secret Mountain, Government Canyon, because somebody had a sense of humor if they were named in the 70s or later. If they were named going way back before then it's just, it's curious that that's where they had the canyon. Obviously it had nothing to do with the names, but the names came later. Then somebody had a sense of humor, because when you look on Google, those are the official canyon names: Secret Canyon, Secret Mountain, Government Canyon. Those are their real names. Like I said, somebody had a sense of humor.
Have you personally witnessed things coming out of these
underground
caves?
Dave, every night on my tours.
Really?
Literally every night. Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about, I'll talk about the sightings.
We got about 2 minutes.
Well, I'll cover the sightings a little bit, then we can get more into it. And then I'll cover about maybe the tunnels and the evidence, and people having run-ins with the guards and the tunnels and stuff. And then some other forms of evidence, that kind of thing. So as far as the sightings go, in answer to your question, people are seeing things come and go from that area. Now, not everyone, because it helps. We have the night vision goggles, and it helps that I know when to look to see it, because the consistency of when we're seeing it all the time and the time of night and stuff. I have a couple competitors doing UFO sign tours here in town. They're not staying out late enough, and they're not looking that direction. Are they having sightings above them, just like we did on my tours for the first 13 years? So they're still seeing and having had happen what we have had happen for 13 years. But in the last 2 years is when we started to see what I call this new stuff. And that is things coming and going from that area, and the amount of military helicopters. And it's happening a little bit later. So you have to be willing to be out a little later, and you have to know the direction you want to look, which is towards those hills and canyons. But if we're needing to break, you let me know, and then I can get more into this when we come back for sure.
Well, definitely. We got about a minute here. Those things that you were seeing coming out during your tour, are they orbs? Are they craft? Or is it a combination?
No, we're seeing there's what is and what you're seeing, and those aren't necessarily the same thing. Okay, because you can see a craft at a distance surrounded by a plasma field, and are you seeing light at a distance? Yes. It's only up close that you see the structured craft. Okay, so I'll explain. So first off, as I said, I've done 2,067 tours. we have seen on my tours full structure, meaning all the hard edges, like,
Okay.
where's my cell phone?
Hold that thought. We're going to continue it when we come back from the break,
all
Melinda,
the hard
because
edges.
I know that this is going to be very exciting. Melinda Leslie is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking UFO, alien underground bases in Arizona. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Melinda, we are clear. And I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm just going to put you back in the green room for a couple minutes, okay?
Okay. You're taking a break. Yeah.
All right. Be right back, everybody. All right. We are back. We've got about 90 seconds to go. Let's bring Melinda back in. And
Take you off my phone. You get feedback.
I was getting a little feedback.
Yeah, take that off.
Hey, Terry Hall, how's the mustache, buddy? Give us an update on that mustache. What a beautiful lip blade.
Under every Dollar General was built specifically for Dollar General. News to me. I don't think so, but what the heck? I don't know. Well, I did. I went in the chat during the break and said, anybody have a question? I can take it there. And I was going to, just type
I'll
them
get
a
questions
response.
coming up.
I was going to type them a response in the thing, but.
Thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2 and Mel WD40 for gifting the Spaced Out Radio memberships. Thank you to Kitty Caddywhack and Stargazer ×2 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support. Hi there, Ozzy Ange. How you doing, beautiful? And we're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. Oh, the lovely and talented Nicole Sackich has arrived.
Oh my gosh,
Hello,
Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Oh my God.
I know. I love her. Here we go, Melinda. We're kicking off hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in as we talk about underground alien bases with Melinda Leslie tonight. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Nepenthe, there we go. Nepenthe is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Now let's bring in our guest. She's an experiencer. She's a researcher. She's an advocate for UFO transparency. Melinda Leslie has been doing this for more than 4 decades, and now we brought her here, hanging on out with us. Melinda Leslie, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Doing good, Dave. I'm chuckling because I think every time you introduce me, a couple more years get added to the research experience. I'm just kidding.
Melinda Leslie, 98 years of research. 25. Yes.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
It is beautiful. And we're always so proud to have you on this show.
Oh, you're too good to me.
Thank you, my dear, for coming on again.
Sure. Anytime, man. I always have fun when I come on here.
Right before the break, we were talking about what you have seen in Arizona coming out of these underground bases. How do we know that this isn't some sort of military production rather than alien production?
Well, what I can do is back it up for you a little bit and explain what started happening 2 years ago, because then that'll help you understand it. But even before I say that, since you said, how do we know it's alien or military? My clients always ask me on the tours, and I say to them, well, the real honest, because they always say, is it us or is it them? Is it them being ET or is it us being human? And I said, well, the real honest, there's 2 honest answers. One is, I don't know. Secondly, the second real honest answer is, it's very likely both. Okay, now with that, I'll explain what's happened 2 years ago. I had 2 families and a couple come on my tour. It was September 27th, 2023. The family said, we want to ask you about your own personal experiences. Like the two families had seen me, they didn't know each other, nor the couple. It was 10 people total. And they said, we'd seen you in documentaries and radio interviews and podcasts and television, whatever, And they said, because of that, we have questions about, and they both listed different things that they'd seen or heard me on. And they said, but because of that, we have questions about your own personal experiences. I said, great. They said, can we ask you about that, tonight on the tour? And I said, yes, but let me get all my talking done, because I do over an hour of explaining in the beginning. Lately, it's even been like an hour and a half. And then I say, after I'm done with that, we'll get some sightings going. And we would always have the most sightings in the first hour. There's a very logical reason why. And the second hour would taper off with less sightings. And it had to do, without going into too much detail right now, in the first 13 years, we'd always have the most sightings in the first hour as soon as it's completely dark. And the reason, we call night is just Earth's shadow, and it forms up and starts to extend out into space. And it also is kind of sweeping across the planet. But there's a 2-hour window once it's completely dark and you've lost any remnant of sunset, where everything in the upper atmosphere is still in bright sunlight. So we would have this angle of sunlight coming over the horizon and lighting stuff up. So the majority of what we were seeing were metallic things reflecting sunlight. For instance, that's the only reason you ever see satellites. Satellites have no lighting on them. They have 1/12 the battery strength of your car battery. They have such limited battery strength, it'd be a complete waste to ever put lighting. There's no reason. So you only see satellites because they reflect sunlight. And you tend to see a bunch within the first 2 hours after sunset and the first 2 hours before sunrise, for the same reason. You have an angle of sunlight, I'm doing this with my hand, coming over the horizon. Okay. So I told them, I said, let's get all the talking done, then we'll get sightings done. But in the second hour, as we rotate away from the sun, and the sightings would fall off, and that proved itself, in 13 years of doing the tour. So I said, in 90% of the tours, we would have more sightings in the first hour. Okay. So I said, it'll probably fall off, with less and less sightings as we rotate away from the sunlight in the second hour. So that's a good time to ask me those things. And they said, great. And then the couple who were there said, who are you? They never heard of me, So, and they're hearing all these other people say, oh, you haven't seen this and this. And then they're like, what? I love it when I get that mixed crowd, like someone who knows and other people who are just think I'm a flunky here at the Center for New Age. It cracks me up. Okay, so, because I kind of am. Okay, but so I said, wait. And so when it slowed down, now, one of the things I do in part of my talk is I cover all about how if it's planes, helicopters, drones, satellites. I cover all that extensively. And that night I did, including how to know when it's planes, if it's commercial aircraft, private aircraft, or military aircraft, planes and helicopters. And again, I had covered that. So as it got later, and we would have ended the tour at about 9, the first hour of viewing would have been like 7 to 8, and the second hour of viewing, you're with me for like 3 hours, but that's the viewing time, would have been like 8 to 9 in September 2023. So again, the families said, okay, we'll wait to ask you those questions. So in the second hour, it had slowed down. We had like 40 UFO signs in the first hour after sunset, and 7 to 8. And then from like 8 to 8:30, we'd only had maybe 2, really slowed down. So they said at like 8:30, 8:40, they said, Melinda, it really slowed down. Is now a good time to ask you those things? I said, yes. Well, Dave, you know me, they start asking me a lot of questions about my own personal experiences. And then my clients start opening up and sharing theirs. Well, we blew well past the 9 o'clock time, and we're going on 9:45. And one gentleman is looking with the NVGs, military night vision goggles, and he's looking at the horizon, and he says, Melinda, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm seeing a sea of military helicopters out over this area. And he said, is this normal? I go, what? And so I start looking, so does everyone. And I go, no, I'll clean it up a little for you, Dale. Oh, heck no. Okay. The other word, Okay. Yeah. So, oh, heck no.
I got that one.
And then all of a sudden, one lady's looking up as we're watching all this military, and he said, yeah, these keep coming in. All these military helicopters have been coming in over the hills and canyons for the last 10 minutes. And he said, I didn't want to, this gentleman said, I didn't want to interrupt you. And so I'm going, and they're like, have you ever seen this? I said, no. I said, in 13 years, no, we've never ever seen this. And then about a few minutes into seeing that, a lady's looking up and she said, there's all these things moving up there. It's like what we saw in the first hour, but it's more than the first hour. And now, like, it had gone easily from 8:30 to 9:30 with maybe only having 2 sightings. And now it's like 9:45. We're getting a sea of sightings above us. And one lady said, is this normal for it to stop all the sightings and like an hour later have a whole nother wave of sightings? And I said, oh, heck no, never seen it this way before. And then another lady knows that these lights were coming and going behind the mountains in the distance, hills and mountains, and coming up behind those mountains. And my clients started to say, is that normal for them to come and go behind these hills? Well, you know what my answer was. I said, oh, heck no, never, ever seen this in 13 years, ever. I've never seen them come and go behind the hills and mountains in 13 years. Never. And then one lady goes, well, why would they be coming from behind there? And I said, well, there's a simple answer. I told my clients, simple answer and a complex answer. And the simple answer was, there's trails in the beginning of Secret Canyon that go a couple miles and end, and the beginning of Sycamore Canyon that go a couple miles and end. But beyond there, there's like another 2 miles at least, a secret canyon with no trails, no roads, no dirt roads, no structures, nothing. Wild, rugged, mountainous terrain, giant boulders, pine forest. You could only go further than the trails if you're like rock climbing. And then in Sycamore Canyon, the trail goes back 3 miles and ends, but the canyon goes back like another 4 or 5 miles beyond that. So you add that together, and it's easily 7 miles of no trails, no dirt roads, no paved roads, no structures, nothing. Just wild, rugged, mountainous terrain. Some of it's sheer canyon walls, and some of it's really thick pine forest. And then the closest civilization is 24 miles back is the town of Belmont on the 40 freeway. If you're driving from Flagstaff to Williams, like going to the Grand Canyon, or Williams to Flagstaff, right in the middle, a little tiny postage stamp of a town that if you blink, you'd miss it. On the 40 freeway, there's a McDonald's and a truck stop. That's it. And that's like 24 miles back. So there's at least 20 miles back of nothing. 20 miles. And then once you get beyond the hills, right outside of town, the wilderness opens up some more. So that's why I said it opens up to about 10 miles wide by 20 miles of nothing. Wild, rugged, mountainous terrain, no roads, no trails, nothing. No structures, And so I said the simple answer to my clients that night was, there's no reason. I can't imagine why the ETs or their craft would, be coming and going from behind these hills. There's nothing there. There's no reason to be there. And late at night, it'd be pitch black out there. I go, there's no reason. And then, because I remember I'd said there was also complicated. So one of my clients, being a smart blank like me, says, okay, Melinda, then what's the complicated answer? And I said, well, the complicated answer is we have a deep underground military base. And that's the only reason I could think that ETs would be coming and going behind there. When we had never seen that in 13 years of doing the tours every night. And it just like all of a sudden starts to happen. And so the next night I told my clients, I said, we have this new thing going on. And then the next night. And it ended up 2 years later, here we are, it keeps happening. And I kept thinking maybe this will end at some point. No, it's increasing. We're even clients of mine, Dave, who've been with me in the last 2 years. I just took out a client the other night. It's like the third time in 2 years they've gone out with me. And they said, oh my God, last time they went out with me was in May, just last May. And they said, Melinda, this is like we're seeing 5 times more tonight than we saw in May. And then the other time was like that time last year. And they said every time it's at least like triple how much stuff we're seeing from previous times. So, so it's those return clients that are able to say, well, this is a huge increase. And yeah, do we have some nights that might be a little slower, but consistently there's this increase. And what we're seeing is the sea of military helicopters. Now, yes, the stuff's coming and going from behind those hills. And the closest hills are like 5. Well, there's closer ones that are like 2 miles, but behind them are more. So anything coming and going behind there is at least 5 miles away. and up to about 10 or 15 miles. So between 5 and 15 miles, let's say. And one area, Government Canyon's behind a ridge that we know that ridge is 10 and 12 miles away. So anything coming up behind there, when we see it coming up, is probably 12 miles away or more from coming up back there. And we're seeing these large amber lights, but just so you know, I've taken out physicists on my tour galore. I've taken out, you guys, so many insiders and aerospace people and engineers and physicists and professional pilots and astronomers and astrophysicists, you name it, highly qualified witnesses, lots. Okay. I just had 2 guys the other night that are.
Melinda, I have a bunch of questions built up from our audience here. I want to get
real quick, Dave, if I can,
Yeah.
I'll finish this. So we're seeing these big amber lights. I've taken out physicists and plasma physicists. It was mostly a handful of plasma physicists who gave me the most amount of detail. They said in the lab, they create a highly charged energy field. So massively charged, it ionizes the air. That's called electrical plasma. And in the lab, they know that they've achieved that plasma or that ionized air when they get amber light, meaning anything gold, and then a little more power goes orange, a little more power goes red. So anything gold, orange, red in that spectrum. That's called amber light. And it means you've ionized the air. And then they tell me it's like 50 times more power after the red. You get a different kind of plasma, and then you get blue, and then after blue, 50 times more power, you get green. Well, we used to get amber light like 2 out of 3 tours, and we were lucky if we saw it twice in the night. Now, Dave, with this new stuff in the last 2 years, we're getting amber light. I'm telling my clients, you'll see it at least 50 times a night. Like, we're getting it constant. When it used to be 2 out of 3 tours, and we're lucky if it happened 2 or 3 times, now you're going to get like 50 times a night. And these are these giant amber lights. Now, my research team members, Jeremiah and Alexander, they have friends that they work with at a local resort here in town. These people went out and were photographing this behind one of our canyons one night. At the same time, I'm out there with a tour, but they're in a different area. And they had a telephoto lens on a really good camera. They zoomed in on these amber lights and took these pictures where you can see that there's an object in there creating the plasma field around it. And I've been saying that forever to people for 15 years. But now people, I have these 4 pictures these folks took, and they're going to go out, they're local, so they're going to go out and do this more. But they got an object in the plasma field. Now, it's got the plasma in front of it, so it's not a hard-edged, really clear picture. But you can say there's definitely like bands of plasma. It's almost like a coronal effect. And in the middle, there's clearly a dark object. I mean, no doubt. And so I love that I have those pictures now to demonstrate what I've been saying all along. But what that means is that's a craft, that's a ship. And according to plasma physicists, the physicists, plasma physicists, and aerospace people, for instance, and engineers, and on my tour, they say it means the object is bleeding an obscene amount of power. That's a field effect. That's a byproduct of the propulsion system ionizing the air around the craft whenever you get that amber. And then occasionally, if it's big enough field effect or stronger, energy by many, magnitudes, you can get then the blue or the green, which we get amber light every night. We've had blue 6 times the last 2 years and green 5 times. So we have seen that, but we get amber every tour. And what happens is they do what I call a power up. These objects get brighter right before they're going to leave. Leave means disappear. And disappear is, something disappearing is either, if it's there and then immediately disappearing, you're talking about like going, folding space-time around it or bending light around it or going interdimensional. Or it's sometimes when you're right under these things, you see them shoot straight up like a bullet. So we know that some of these things are shooting off really fast. Now, besides seeing the lights, we have seen structured craft. On 48 of the tours, we've had full structure. Like if I hold this phone up, when you see all the hard edges, you're seeing the structure. So we have seen full structure. Whoops, I gotta exit out of there now. I've seen full structure on these tours, on 48 tours, and some of those were more than one. So just to cut real quick, we've seen full structure about 70 times. And that's conservative. I've dialed that number back. That's a conservative number. 70 fully structured craft, seeing all the hard edges. spread out amongst 48 tours. But that's 70 structured craft, 48 tours out of 2,060 tours, Okay, but so we have seen it. I usually tell my clients don't expect that, but it's so dramatic when it happens. We've seen big black triangles. I'm not kidding, Dave, right under, like clear, where everyone on the tour saw it. I only count structure if everybody present sees it. I would easily have another 50 tours with structure if I counted the times that half the people or less saw it. But I really have only counted because I can say everybody on those tours saw it. We've seen triangles, black triangles, 10 times. No joke.
No kidding.
10 times.
Do you think the black triangles are ours or theirs?
They're both. Years ago, I had an insider, long story short, someone I knew for years, an insider say, if it had rounded edges, it's theirs. If it had beveled on triangles or beveled edges, it's ours. I don't know if that any longer is the case. But again, I think the real honest answer is to say it's both. Now we have had black triangles come out and discs come out of this area from up behind the hills. I'll give you a quick example, quick story. Jeremiah and Alexander, two of my team members, I do a lot with them, and we presented recently, so I'm quick to name them above some of the other people that haven't been quite as active, but that are part of the team. But there's a core group of about 5 of us and another like 5 people who help us. Okay, long story short. And some other people showed interest lately with some science backgrounds and stuff. So I think the research team's going to grow if those other people step forward. There we go. But so one night we're on the tour behind Kasner Mountain, which is one of these mountains I'm talking about. And it has a top altitude of about 6,000 feet in height. Coming up behind it were these giant amber lights. One of them starts to come over Kasner towards us, actually kind of lighting up Kasner as it came. And as it came towards us, 6 miles out from where we're sitting is Bradshaw Ranch, which is our version of Skinwalker Ranch. But here, that's in Utah. Bradshaw Ranch is here in Sedona. But from where I take my clients, it's literally 6 miles straight to where that is. And so this light coming over Kasner starts coming towards us and then stops. And it's real bright. It's at arm's length. It's like dime size. And I say to my clients, if we were out at Bradshaw Ranch, we'd be right under that thing right now. We'd be looking at structured craft because that's going to be structure if you're right under it.
2 minutes to go here, Melinda. Do you think the energies and the high strangeness of Bradshaw Ranch has a lot to do with these sightings?
No. Bradshaw is a high strangeness. It's a place with a lot of paranormal stuff. But you can have sightings anywhere in Sedona. The sightings have to do with Sedona and its energy, what we call here the vortex, the vortices, okay? So the increased magnetic field spiraling up from the ground here, and probably a lot, the sightings have been going on here going back thousands of years because the Native Americans living in the area going back thousands of years said they had regular contact with the star beings. So you had the sky beings, the star beings, and the ant beings. The ant beings came out from underground. The sky beings came from the sky, and the star beings come from the stars. When they draw star beings amongst their drawings, they often look like, sometimes they look like variation on grays, but some of them look like the manted beings when they draw them.
Right.
And our canyons back in here have pictographs and petroglyphs galore from the Native Americans showing ships and ETs. And they'll draw stars around them. So you know those are the ships, those are the ETs, because they're surrounded by the way the Anasazi and the Hopi, etc., drew stars. So you go, okay, that's stars around those. And this area was long known for having that involvement with the ETs. I think it's both because of the energy here and the fact that ETs were always here is why the base is here. And then the base is out in areas surrounded by nature and mountains, and it's
Melinda, hold on right there because we are going to go to break. When we return from the break, we are going to get to some audience questions because they are piled up in the next half an hour. We're going to have some fun. Melinda Leslie deep underground potential alien bases in Arizona. She is one of the best when it comes to breaking down this excellent topic of tonight.
Thank you, Dave.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Melinda, we got a bunch of questions here. So do you want to take some questions during the break?
Sure.
All right. Let's start off with Shell here. We already know what they are disclosing. Do you think it might just be a psyop?
No. I think the word psyop is overused. Whoops. I was going to say, what did I do? I hit my laptop.
Oh, something fell. Oh, my.
Excuse me, guys.
Did you fall over?
Yeah, my laptop fell. I have it on a little table that fell off the back.
Oh, my.
It was propped up in the back by a little silk flower arrangement. But I pushed it a little too far and it slid off.
Oh,
my God, that was
it
funny.
wasn't aliens.
No, it slid off the little table. That's very funny. Sorry.
Scared the hell out of us.
Sorry, man. No, I wasn't abducted. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so is it Shell? So I think the term is overused. Everyone goes, oh, psyop. Psyop means just psychological operations. That's done to like promote fear, to cause an enemy, to fear a military operation, or to cause people to be afraid, used to manipulate votes, that kind of thing, So I think there are things in historically a lot of evidence in regards to psyops. Okay. But no, I don't think disclosure is. I think what we have is senators and congressmen and House members that are asking questions about where's the money going, and realizing the government lost control of this subject because it went to corporate entities, which we can get to more, Dave, by the way, in
Right.
this, because it went to corporate entities, and we have evidence of that out here. So no, you guys, I think you're diminishing and oversimplifying sometimes when you say psyop as opposed to, what do you really mean, and you go, well, wait a second, are congressmen asking real questions? Yeah. Are they realizing that information is being kept by these corporations away from them? Yeah. And people are being told now, could there be a generation of a threat narrative at some point? Well, that could be using the facts and the information to put out a fear message. That would be a psyop. That would be turning the facts and the information and using it towards that end. If anything, I think that message was used a little to bring us the current disclosure because it made Congress and Senate be concerned, but they've moved beyond it. So was that being general? I think there is a good fair argument that it was, but not that heavily. And again, I think it's moved beyond that, where now they're asking deeper questions. And so no,
right.
Long answer to I don't think disclosure.
Let's try and sneak in one more from Carrie here. Have you heard of Colonel Gregg, who claims he was security on most of the underground bases and said he's seen reptilians 7 floors down?
Well, that's been known information. I mean, maybe this guy has. No, first off, I have not heard. I don't know who Colonel Gregg is. I have not heard that. It has been well established with these underground bases and the stories and the mill labs, the abductees being taken to these bases, and insiders who've come forward that multiple ET races and humans are working together. I was going to get into that with the base, and I will at some point when we're back on the radio. But the insiders coming forward have said that there's humans and ETs working together. All the bases have reptilians. So don't go, oh, well, there's this one guy says, no, you guys, every insider says that. Every MILAB says that. It's very common. These bases have multiple ET types seen working with covert humans, including reptilians.
All right, hold
But
that.
I've not heard of this
Hold that
specific
thought, Melinda, because we're coming back on the air right now. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have our guest, Melinda Leslie, until the top of the hour here on the show, and we're glad to have her with us tonight. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We're taking audience questions. Melinda Leslie is our guest tonight, based out of Sedona, Arizona, where she runs a UFO tour. She's an experiencer. She's one of the top names in ufology. Melinda, thank you so much for being here.
Sure, Dave. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get to T-Bone for a pair of questions here. Starting off with this one. Do you think these underground bases connect to water bases as well?
I think that's highly likely. A good person to ask about that, because it's kind of his wheelhouse right now, is Richard Dolan, because he's dealing with so much with the underwater bases and the underwater UFO sightings and whatnot, and connecting all that together. I've heard him recently talking about the very thing. So I think it's likely. Now, as far as here in Sedona, I don't have any evidence of this being connected to other facilities other than maybe a suggestion about the magnetic levitation trains and some other tunneling. But as far as anything going all the way to the coast, I don't know. But are there, for instance, installations in California or other places like Texas, where coastal installations that may connect to bases in the water too? I think that would probably be highly likely. Yeah.
All right, moving on to another one from T-Bone here, which is, what do you think the end game is with the aliens and this whole movement?
Well, I guess the honest answer there is I don't know. I mean, I can say, the ETs come here, you look at the things that they've been doing. They're obviously very concerned about the environment. They're very concerned about nukes and nuclear weapons and whatnot. They're very, and nuclear energy, extremely. They're concerned about the Earth, and then there's the creation of the hybrids and the hybridization program, suggesting either they need us to survive or we need them to survive, or an upgrade of the human race. Okay. And that's not new. It's always been going along, but that's clearly one of the factors in abductions. So, end game, well, it's a hybridization program, upgrading either them or us or both, and concern for the environment and everything. And that could be for the future of us or them to live here. That they'd be concerned about these things. Now, their end game as far as working with the military, well, these are corporate entities, aerospace and other government contracting companies getting, at least billion, if not trillion dollar contracts to both manage these facilities and develop stuff, and an endless flow of money to these projects. Probably through the SAP Special Access Program, funding process, and your tax money at work, being funneled to these corporations to develop the stuff, and yet keep it away from you and any benefits to mankind and to our, coming off of fossil fuels and for the sake of the environment, and medical breakthroughs that would benefit mankind, energy and medical breakthroughs, and changing the world's economy away from fossil fuels and the empowerment of the Middle East states that own us and we make decisions for it. So it's like, wait a second, it would be an end to that, of all that. And so not only that, it's knowing our rightful place in the universe and that we're not alone, so, and which gets into deeper spiritual and philosophical things, but also it's the need of this technology and our ending dependence on foreign oil and everything to change the world economy. And so, and these corporations and these government structures are benefiting by the status quo for that and the endless funding of money. The thing is just your money and you ought to care, and you're being lied to about the truth. So, the lie's being perpetrated on you and your money is being spent to fuel that lie. That I have an issue with that. Don't you have an issue with that, Dave?
I do. I have.
I figured you did.
I do. And just like everybody else, I want to know the truth. I want to know what's going on. I guess I've lost faith in the movement that anything like that will come from the government.
Well, and someone, I think there's a lot to be said. And someone, I think, said it previously about the truth comes from us. And I think that's true. But the government is part of us. You guys are supposed to in a perfect world, okay, they're supposed to represent us, and they're elected representatives for your country and my country, Dave. And so you go, well, wait a second. If they're elected to do our bidding, then they need to represent us, and if representing us means representing the truth to us. But the problem is, like with this subject in particular, giving that over to corporations is where that breakdown happened, because they don't answer to us. And yet they're being given our money. So that is a misuse of the system. That needs to end, And so I think the end game is let's end that. But as far as the ETs, well, they obviously have their own agenda. And whether it's their betterment or ours, or maybe both, But I'd like to think it's both. And I think we're being benefited from it.
All right. Let's go to Joe here. Let's go to Joe here. Melinda, what do you think of the theory that the underneath every Dollar General that was built specifically for Dollar General has some kind of bunker or base under it? I think there was a rumor about Walmart being like that too.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I've never heard anything like that. I have no evidence in support of that, so I have no idea.
Let's go to Nicole.
Yes,
Do the FOIA request. Ask if the location is a strategic national stockpile site or a federal relocation ARC site. Hi, Dave's beard.
Dave has a great beard.
Yeah.
Your beard is it might have more personality than you, though, Dave. Sorry about it.
Very true. That's where I get my power.
It's your power. It's like your wand. It's like a big, wide magic wand. Okay, going back to that question. Hang on, go back to Nicole's question.
I gotta find it here. I accidentally erased it.
Sorry, Nicole.
Would you do any FOIA requests to see what they are?
What?
The question was, would you do any FOIA requests to see what they are?
To see what the bases are?
Yes.
Well, Dr. Richard Sauter did a bunch, and a few other people have. So there is documentation in support of these bases existing, and you have to, like any FOIA thing, you can't just say, "Oh, they're a base." You won't get anything. You have to know what you're looking for specifically and code words and stuff to get anything, and then they're going to probably be highly redacted. But having it said that, people have done stuff. He's done stuff. So to find out that there are these installations and they have different purposes, at least officially on the documents. Some of them are supposed to have like nuclear facility, nuclear weapon storage and nuclear waste storage facilities, this kind of thing. Some of them are contingency of government sites. Different ones have different things, and what may be on the books and what they allocated the money for may not be what it's used for today, or even at the time. That was just the justification, like, oh, well, we can throw money at that based on this. And yet and maybe it was in part for that. And then they used it to also hide some of this clandestine stuff. So, so there's different ones with different purposes, but not that much data has been gone after. Just enough to say, okay, again, I go back to the work of Richard Sauter, getting quite a bit of FOIA request documentation on a number of facilities and finding out there was a large range of reasons they had them. It wasn't all ET related. In fact, that might have been in the documentation, a small percentage, or not represented in the documentation. But now the evidence is that we have these large reverse engineering related facilities. So, it could be once they got the money stream going, they didn't need to constantly prove why. They can just do it under, oh, it's national security. Oh, it's weaponization. Oh, it's protection. Oh, it's, Department of Defense, now Department of War, the calling it, putting it in that guise and justifying extreme expenditure in development of technologies and weapons, and et cetera, and aerospace vehicles.
All right. Next question coming up comes from, let's see here, Jaquetta.
Sorry, Nicole, that your question went goodbye and I didn't get to see what it all said, but maybe
Jaquetta is asking, somewhere here in Missouri is supposedly a drive-into tunnel and underground city. I think I saw semis going in on some YouTube videos. Is this something you've seen or heard of?
No. And I want to be clear. So no, I haven't heard of that, but I want to be clear to people. I'm not a generalist in the underground base research. I'm actually kind of, have I known about underground tunnels for a while and the work of researcher Tal Levesque and the things he was printing in the 90s with the maps of where the installations are and the maglev train maps and all that. And then the work of Dr. Richard Sauter. When I had a lecture series in Southern California, I had Dr. Richard Sauter come speak for me at least twice, and I think 3 times, about his research. So I was always kind of a fan and follower of it. But I've never been a researcher of it till I moved here to Sedona and became more familiar with our facility here. And then since this new stuff with the sightings coming and going and all the military helicopters swarming over those areas in the last 2 years is what made me go, wait a second, what's really going on? And when I started asking around, hearing people's run-ins and encounters with the guards and seeing the convoys of military vehicles go back and the tunnel boring equipment go back. And realizing all of us on the research team had different pieces of that and added together how much data it was. So really my research has been about one base here in Sedona, and predominantly that research has been in the last 2 years. So I'm not a generalist overall. So you guys can ask me general questions, but as far as specific locations and where they are, unless I read it in Richard Sauter's book, I'm not going to know.
All right, let's go to Terry. Melinda, you do know that Dave is a farseer, don't you? Ask Dave about 1111 in the Uinta Basin. So I'll quickly tell you this story.
Okay.
So Terry Hall and a few others were out in the Uinta Basin by Blind Frog Ranch, and they were looking for UFOs. I'm sitting right in the studio where I am, and it was, I think, a Saturday night. And all of a sudden, I just had the feeling I needed to call Terry. So I get a hold of Terry, and I asked him, I said, dude, how's it going? He goes, it's been very quiet tonight. I said, you need to go look outside right now. Look at about 11:30 in the sky, and you're going to see some lights moving out there. And so Terry, being the skeptical guy, just kind of rolled his eyes, said, okay, fine. And all of a sudden, goes outside with the camera, and there's lights moving in the sky.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like that story. It's one of my favorites.
That's
Go to
very
Derek here.
There's
Melinda,
there's times on my tour where I call it a psychic hit. I'll get a strong impression that either something is coming or no, we just see stuff everywhere. So it's like not a big deal and over the hills particularly. But there are times when I'll get a big psychic hit to look a certain direction or pay attention. And then we'll get like a big formation of objects. Or
Right.
I've even had it before structured craft. Not every time, but enough times that my clients went, wow, you really called that.
let's go to another question here. Let's go to Derek in Florida. Melinda, did you see recent interviews with Anna Paulina Luna saying that she has been getting threats for trying to get disclosure, and even folks tried to erase her family lineage?
No, I saw comments that she was saying about the witnesses getting more harassment, the witnesses that testified, but her particularly not necessarily. So maybe I didn't see that. I did not hear anything about erasing her family lineage. That's very interesting. No, I guess I'll have to look into that. I had not seen.
Yeah,
anything
I'll have
about
to look into that one too, because
I did
I
not
haven't
see
heard
that.
that one either.
I do know that some of the witnesses have been catching some flack. Yeah.
All right, let's move
But they're
on.
also getting a lot of support. A couple of them just spoke for the Soul Foundation event in Italy, and a tremendous new conference by Soul, and the lineup this weekend, and I know some people that were there and have heard amazing things about it. Yeah, really amazing things. But so I know that some of those people have had some flack, but they're getting flack and blowback, and they're also getting tremendous support. Thank God.
All right, let's get to another question here. Let's go to let's go to T-Bone again. Melinda, what was your I know what I saw moment?
Oh, lots of those. Every time you see a structured craft, but oh gosh. I know, Dave, I'll do this because there's so many, but so what I saw, meaning sightings, so we'll stick just to that as opposed to abduction related stuff. And I'll go to one of the first significant sightings that was just stands out for me. And then the last sighting of a structured craft that we had on my tour. Okay. So the first thing being, I can go back to other sightings, but one that really stuck out was when I first started to go, and I probably shared this one. Dave, you probably heard this, to Area 51 in Nevada. And I'm there with three other friends. We drove out in a car together. We go to leave town, to leave the little alien, bar and grill in Rachel, Nevada, and to start driving back. And you're going to go on you're going to go on Highway 375 past Groom Road, and then you're going to go on Highway 93 through Ash Springs, and then you're eventually going to catch up with the 15 freeway and head back in, to Vegas. And we had a significant sighting of, we had just gone through Ash Springs on the 93. It was about 4:00 in the afternoon. And complete daytime still, late in the afternoon, late angle sunlight, but completely blue sky. And we had this amazing sighting of a giant, I call it a silver pancake in the sky. And seeing it at a distance, it looked like a saber sword blade. Like if you took a big, shiny saber sword and hung it in the sky and maybe tilted a little so it would catch the sun really bright, and then tilt it back, see mirrored finished silver, and do that, And then as we approached it, we eventually got closer and closer. We realized that was the leading edge of a disc, and it was a big, like, silver pancake, mirror finish in the sky. Amazing sighting. And all four of us in the car saw it. We argued about pull over because one person had a nice camera in their lap, and we wanted them to get photos. And I thought they were taking photos. It turns out they were waiting till us pulled over, but there was an argument with the driver, and the driver decided to speed up to get closer. So we ended up not pulling over. We ended up speeding up. And so that person did not take a picture, unfortunately, but it was dramatic. We had to watch it for a couple minutes. It rotated. It kind of went down in altitude a little bit between two, what we thought were big hills in the distance. Turns out they were mountains. But it kind of came down, but not really big, two smaller mountains. Came kind of semi down between them, raised up again just a little bit above them, and then just like snapping your fingers, winked out. And the four of us sat in the car, but that was like a giant silver disc. It was bigger. It was bigger than a football field. It might have been the size of 2 football fields. It was large. And it was dramatic and shiny silver, and to see it rotate and shine in the sun and then eventually just wink out altogether and everyone see. So that was an absolute moment. And then, okay, so that was, and there were maybe some other sightings out at Area 51 on some trips out there in 89 that I saw before then. I mean, one, maybe before that, I'll just throw this in real quick. I wasn't going to, but before even seeing that, on another trip to Area 51 before that one, was seeing this big kind of amber light thing come up from the base, start to do a big path over us. And a gentleman had a 10-inch telescope out there with like a little step stool up to it and an eyepiece to look in. And the telescope was this big around, 10-inch. And he had it fixed. And he said, okay, I got it in the telescope. And so people are lining up to look. And he was slowly kind of moving it to try to keep with it. But luckily it was moving really slow over us. And when you looked in the telescope, it was a big disc with little lights all around the edge. Now, to naked eye, it was kind of just an elongated, big amber light. But in the telescope, you could see it had little rectangular lights all along the edge of the disc, and it was rotating, and it was, clear as day. So that was like, I know what I saw. And we all saw it. And people could see with their eyes, and then people were lining up at the telescope. And it come out from the base, did this big curving path over us behind, because you're right on Highway 375 right there, just outside of, Groom Lake and Groom Basin, between Ash Springs and Rachel, Nevada. And it curved around over there's mountains right behind you in the highway right there. And it went right over those mountains and then eventually shot straight up. And that was phenomenal. It was big. So big, I'd say a couple 100 feet in diameter. And so that was really spectacular. But that silver daytime was, okay, then let's just jump to the last time we saw structured craft on my tour. And was the last structured craft that I saw.
Right.
Was about 6 months ago. What? We good, Dave? Okay.
No, I just said right. I was confirming.
Okay, never mind. Sorry. Didn't want to talk over you. We're out at my usual spot. There's kind of a bush near us. And over behind where the cars are is some trees. And over behind that, for those from Sedona, was from that angle what's called Cultural Park. And over there, you're seeing Thunder Mountain, which is when you're driving through town on A9A. That's the giant domed hill. And then Coffee Pot Rock, which is an old-fashioned percolator coffee pot right next to it. And Chimney Rock, like a lone spire. But those are behind bushes. But we started to hear this sound. It went womp, 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 womp. And my clients are like, what the heck is that? And I said, well, would be a very large military helicopter, probably coming from behind Thunder Mountain there. And if we clear this bush, and we had a moonless night, like you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, it was that dark. And I said, if we clear this bush, we should be able to see it, because we'll see its acquisition lights, its strobes, okay. And we're hearing it really loud, but we're not seeing it yet. Then all of a sudden, out in front of us, because what would be just the left of that, is the Secret Mountain Wilderness Range, and where Enchantment Resort is in the entrance to Boynton Canyon, which kind of gives off a glow because they have spotlights lighting up red rocks for their guests at night. But it's kind of behind some rocks, so you just see the glow.
We got to hurry it up. We only got about 10 seconds here.
Okay, and all of a sudden, coming over the edge of that hill is a Chinook helicopter. What do you call it? CH-47. Big rotors on both ends, comes right over out of the back of Secret Canyon, clearly coming right over the ridge, coming towards us.
Melinda Leslie, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Hour 3 starts off with Swamp Dweller next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Melinda, thank you very much, my dear. I love you.
Can I finish that really quick in the break? Just the very end of that. What was in front of the Chinook?
You got 3 minutes.
Okay, we'll be faster than that.
I'll be right back. You talk.
Okay. So the radio listeners don't get to hear this, you guys, but anyone still online now gets to hear it. So coming towards us, Chinook helicopter going womp, 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 and had big rotors. They're the big, long, transport helicopters with rotors on both ends. And also, I don't have the goggles right then. I have 10 clients with me. They all have the night vision goggles. Pitch black night, moonless. And they're looking for the goggles. And I hear one person go, "What is that big thing in front of the Chinook?" And this was just, you guys, this was like 5 months ago. It's the last structure graph sign. Or 6 months. And they go, "What is that thing in front of it?" And I hear someone else goes, "Oh, I thought I was the only one who saw that. I was wondering if anyone else saw that." And someone else said, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys see it too." And I go, "What are you guys seeing?" And they said, "Well, there's a big thing in front of the Chinook." I go, "What do you mean? I'm looking with my eyes. There's nothing in front of it. I see the Chinook. I see the rotors, the strobe lights, the acquisition lights on the end." And the lady sitting next to me practically throws the goggles at me because, again, I didn't have goggles yet. I wasn't using them. And she hands me goggles and she says, "Melinda, look at the goggles." And I look, and in front of the Chinook was a big disc bigger than the Chinook. And it was completely silhouetted, completely silent. The Chinook had the acquisition lights on the end, and then those lights were kind of, the strobes were lighting up the rotors. And the disc was at least as wide as the Chinook was long and bigger than that. And I had 2 retired airline pilots on the tour that night. These 2 guys, these older guys that were friends, told us all about being pilots and having science. And them and I are measuring as the Chinook goes over our head. It's about 4 inches long at arm's length. So if you hold up your arm straight, you go 4 inches long. And those guys said, "Melinda, that Chinook and that disc are only about 1,000 feet above us. They're really low. They're only about 1,000 feet." And the Chinook, the disc, the flying saucer in front of it, was completely black, silhouetted, completely silent, and bigger than the Chinook. And both of them were about 1,000 feet above us. And the Chinook was following it just like this. Eventually, the disc jumped out in front about 50 yards, just all of a sudden leaped out in front, and then starts going up on an arcing path, going faster, 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 till eventually went streaked right out like a bolt, leaving this Chinook flying by itself, womp, womp, womp. And we're making jokes like, "You guys, you're not," saying to the military, "you're not going to be able to chase or follow that thing and that thing, because the Chinook is like really slow and womp, womp, womp." And the Chinook continued to fly south. Well, my client said, "Where would it be going?" I said, "Home. It's going to Luke Air Force Base right outside of Phoenix." And that's the closest military base with any military aircraft permanently stationed at it. There's ones further away, but the closest one with helicopters and fighter jets stationed at it is Luke, right outside of Phoenix, which is 2 hours away from Sedona. But it was flying that direction. And so the disc had gained in altitude, increasing speed, till eventually it went, streaked out like a bullet. And so that was the last structure craft sign we had. Yeah, it was pretty dramatic. Pretty darn. And the last one before that was a year before that, just about a year, or just under a year before that. And we had a black triangle, which we've seen 10 times, but we had a black triangle come from the west, and it came as an amber light. And as it got closer, then we could make out that we had a big black triangle. And then coming in the distance behind it was an F-16 fighter jet that sped up and pulled up right behind it. And so that disc was followed by an F-16. I'm not disc, that triangle. But the other disc would have the Chinook behind it. Dave, that's what I was just telling him. It was a great big disc followed by the
Heard you tell
helicopter.
that story. I love that story.
Yeah. So
All right, dear, I gotta let you go.
Yes, dear. Thank you.
Much love to you. We'll talk soon. Okay.
So I didn't get more into the Lockheed Martin involvement with the base.
We'll get to that next time because I'll have you on before the end of the year.
Lots more to cover on all that. And people had run-ins with the guards at the base. Yeah, lots of stories. But that's all right. And everybody on X, I have 2 presentations that are an hour and a half long each, totaling 3 hours of data that if you're interested in what I'm talking about and the evidence, please watch those presentations. Team member Jeremiah and I did presentations together, an hour and a half lecture, hour and a half workshop, part 1, part 2 at Contact in the Desert. And if you're on X, I have those posted there just in the last, couple of days. So you can watch those and cover all the stuff that you missed.
Love you, Melinda.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Bye. Melinda Leslie, everybody. I love her. I just love her. If you ever get a chance to meet her in person, make sure you give her a hug. She gives the best hugs. All right. Let's bring in Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you, my dear.
Good to see you.
All right. I appreciate that. And we got about 25 seconds. So thank you tonight to Stargazer ×2, Kitty Cattywhack, T-Bone ×2, and Mel WD40. Appreciate your love and support, everybody. Our store is open. I'm putting up new stuff again tomorrow, so make sure you check it on out. And we will get going here in 5 seconds. We're into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Nepenthe is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. And let's go to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. So, this story happened back in 2016. I was 18 and was planning on visiting my girlfriend. We lived in different cities in the UK, so I decided to get a train and visit her for the weekend. The train I caught was slightly earlier than I had booked, but some UK trains have the option for more flexible times as long as it isn't at rush hour. It was 5 a.m. in winter. It was cold, dark, and miserable, and I had just stepped onto the platform to wait for it to pull up to the station when a roughly 60-year-old man came and stood next to me. By next to me, I meant he was literally less than 20 centimeters away and practically leaning on me despite almost no one else being around. So it's not like the area was cramped. He was balding, wore thick-rimmed glasses with incredibly strong prescriptions by the looks of it. He was significantly taller than me. I'd say he was close to 6'6", but slim and gaunt with coarse-grained skin and had unusually wide mouth and a scraggly beard that looked like it needed a good trim. He was dressed in a black baggy hoodie that was pulled over his head and wore fatigued jeans that looked as if they were close to falling apart at any moment. I stepped away, trying to politely put some distance between us, and fortunately, he didn't follow me any further. The train pulled up, and I stepped onto the carriage. I found a seat. For reference, I sat in the left side of the train next to the window. I put my headphones in and tried to nap for a duration of my 3-hour journey. The train was mainly empty. A few tired workers slumped in the corner sleeping off the work from the night before, and a couple of old women chatted quietly between themselves. The journey was mainly painless, and I had mainly forgotten the old man, and couldn't see him either in my carriage or the ones adjacent, so I paid the thought of him little attention. It was about an hour into the journey when the train went to a short tunnel. It couldn't have been for more than 20 seconds, but I felt a strong hand grab my right leg. I jerked out of my daze, half asleep, but I found that the train exited the darkness and the old man was sat directly next to me, still grasping my leg hard enough that it would later leave a light bruise along the thigh. I pulled my leg away quickly and asked him what he was doing. I'm not an intimidating person, a pretty fat teenager that barely reaches 5'8". It's never really to be scary, but I put on my most confident and authoritative voice and repeated my question, though this time it was louder and contained a few more choice words for the old man. I had barely managed to finish the question before he grabbed my face with his hand and slammed my head against the window so that I was pinned in place. Despite my struggles, he easily held me in place and leaned in until he was inches from my squished face. With a deep, baritone voice that seemed to echo around in my brain, he whispered directly into my ear something similar to,
"You would be a very nice plaything."
I apologize that I can't remember the exact words. The adrenaline that had me freaking out made it difficult to concentrate on the things that he was saying, but I vividly remember he knew my name. He then licked the exposed side of my face slowly until a bridge above the tracks blocked what little light was trickling into the carriage. As the light dimmed, I felt the hand release my face. I snapped to look where the man had been, but he had already disappeared from view. I rose shakily from my seat and rushed to the toilet to vomit from the fear. I stayed in there for over an hour before an inspector knocked on the door to check me out and to check out my ticket. I informed him what happened, and he had escorted me to the police officers at the next station, who swept the entire train for the man. It was treated as an assault, so the police viewed the CCTV footage from the train, but they were unable to identify the old guy. I nearly broke down into a panic when they said they couldn't find him, but that wasn't even the worst part. When the police later viewed the CCTV that covered the route I took to the train station, they stated that the same tall black hooded man could be seen following me for almost 2 miles, starting from just outside my house. To this day, I refuse to return to that city. I moved away about 2 months later and have made a promise to myself that I would never ride a train again.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, use his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller, for more stories. All he wants in return is hit subscribe, ring that bell, and you got them there for free to listen to each and every night, just like I do. It's time for Robin.
Robin Haynes walks soft where the tall trees sway. She hears Bigfoot whisper what the wind won't say. Through the veil of the forest where the wild man plays, the Bigfoot psychic talks to Sasquatch every day. Only on Spaced Out Radio's Cryptic Q&A.
Robin Haynes back on Spaced Out Radio. Robin, how are you, my beautiful friend?
I am good. So glad to be here as always.
It is always great to have you here.
Yeah. So what is the snow? I saw you on Facebook today and you're standing in the snow.
We got hit with a little mini blizzard today. Like it lasted about 2 hours.
God.
It dropped about just about an inch of snow, and snow is coming down. What more do you say?
Makes me miss Michigan.
Well, you know what? It's tomorrow. It's supposed to get to about 9 degrees Celsius, which I believe is around 50. maybe 51 degrees Fahrenheit, if that. And so it'll probably all melt,
Yeah,
but it's going to make things real slushy for a little bit. That's
for
okay.
sure.
It's just the Caribou region's way of saying winter's coming. We're almost here. And we can
Yep.
snow at any time. So
Yep.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of it snowing this early, but you know what? Nature has its way of doing things, and I do
Yeah.
have to admit it was beautiful out. It
I
really
was
was.
going to say it was pretty.
Yeah, it was very pretty.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I'm okay with it though. I'm okay.
Oh, it'll get everything moving around. Everybody needs to be aware that this time of year, all the cryptids are looking for food. They're packing it away for the winter, whether you live in the south, whether you live in the north. They are active and they are out. The hunters are out right now, which means they are following hunters, because if they can get to that deer before the hunters get to it, they're going to. So, and, keep in mind, you may have a gun and think that you got it under control, but if there's one, there's a lot more of them out there. And it is not in your best idea to take a shot at one, because it's a matter of seconds before the rest of them are there. So just, they're not aggressive about it. I've not found one hunter that has ever said that they got aggressive about the deer. They just kind of looked at them, picked up the deer and left. So just kind of everybody be aware that they're out and they're about right now.
And you know what? Where I live in the British Columbia wilderness, it's more than just that. You are having to be very careful because with that
Mhm.
first snowfall, the bears are going to be foraging a lot harder
Yep.
now. They're going to be a lot more aggressive. A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of animals are going to be that way. Wolves are going to be that way because the mountains are now covered. The snow is on the mountains. It's not going to melt off the mountains now. In the
Right.
high elevations. Where I am, it will melt. But like getting around where Flight 21 is in the forest, that area, we may be able to get up there once or twice more. I doubt it, but I got to go get my trail cameras. I can't leave them up there all winter, so I have no choice but to go back at least once.
Yeah. Well, we've got another event that's coming up. Just an FYI for everybody. On Thursday, October 30th, there is going to be a major, major frequency shift. Okay. So it doesn't mean everybody on this planet is going to pick up on it. It's still going to happen whether you pick up on it or not. With that shift, everybody's going to be fine. But with that shift, it's raising our frequency. Okay. We're changing from carbon to crystalline based. It's going to help move us out of the third dimension and into the higher dimensions. So it is going to happen. Whether your body is intuitive enough to pick it up, we will see. It's supposed to be one of the stronger shifts that we've had so far, but just be aware of it. Along with that may come mood swings, a hard time sleeping. For people with arthritis and fibromyalgia, it may cause a little bit more discomfort than normal, just like it would with the weather change. But it is going to be one of the bigger shifts that we have. Okay. So on Thursday, if you feel a little bit more moody than normal, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, be kind to yourself, be kind to the people around you. It will pass. Okay. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. It's very much needed. But also be aware that the animals are going to pick it up even if you don't. Okay. So some of them may act a little wonky, especially your non-domesticated animals, your wildlife out in the woods. It's going to set them off because they go primarily on frequency. Our domestic animals do as well, but they're a little bit more prone to be a little bit more laid back. But just like you were talking about with the bears, this will set them off big time. It will set off a lot of animals. All animals are a high frequency being. So when there's even the slightest frequency change, it can set them off. So everything's going to be fine. but everybody just needs to know if things feel a little bit off, you can't sleep, you're more agitated, you may crave more water, more protein, or a certain food. Just ride it out, go with the flow. It's going to be fine, but it is a very necessary thing. But be aware that it is supposed to happen on the 30th.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. How do
Yeah.
the cryptids act, say, around an energy shift or an eclipse or something along that way?
Honestly, I think they handle it better than we do. With our people, I've noticed a little bit more panic. These cryptids are so much higher frequency than we are. They're used to the changes. I think they'll get a little bit, I don't think agitated is a good word. I think maybe anxious, because they can feel it building up, because they are so highly sensitive to every single little tiny frequency change. I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll handle it better than we do. I think it'll make them more comfortable. They're going to wonder what's going on at first, although they were the ones that had first told me about it. I got it confirmed by other sources. But, they pretty much, they know what's going on. We need to go to them for the information on it. But it has been made very public that this is going to happen. So it's kind of just, an FYI for everybody. The cryptids will handle it well. I do think that that's a day that just let them handle it. Let them do their thing. Let us do our thing. Ride it out. It's going to be fine. And it is all for the better. They will be more comfortable afterwards because they are such a high frequency. And this is going to help move our planet into that higher frequency and energy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Good thing.
I didn't get a chance to get out to Flight 21 this past week, due to just conflict and scheduling and everything like that. But it is something that I know that I do have to do probably this coming weekend in order to get there.
Yeah.
My question to you is this. I've now had over a week to study this, and I feel that I let them down. Like, I feel guilty.
I know you do.
5-week break in between. And I feel that I have lost a lot of that trust on that end due to the fact that we just could not get out there for reasons.
Well, let me tell you, they don't feel that way. Okay. That is one of our human type things. They don't. And I'll tell you why. Number one, you've already got a connection with them through the collective. Okay. Your collective consciousness has been linked to them for quite a while. So they monitor everything that you're going through, everything that's going on. So they're very well informed on your intentions and on your thought processes. But also, and people don't really realize this, they have a life too. They will send some of the ones that they use, you can call them a warrior, you can call them whatever you want to call them, but there are certain ones in the clan that may go off and be sent away for a few months. I've had that done before to some of my guys, where, they went in for different training or whatever, and then they came back, which sounds crazy, but they are a human hybrid and they do have things to do. They have meetings where they'll meet up with other clans. So they have to take time too. And sometimes they have to disappear for a little while and then they come back. No, they're not migrating. They have business to attend to just like we do. So they are a little bit better about understanding that than I think we sometimes give them credit for. They do, if you are like out on a daily basis or, every other day where it's a pattern, then they start to get a little bit more worried about, are you okay? But again, they are so intuitive. They will run a check on you. And I promise you, they've been keeping an eye on you since you've been back home. So I think you're going to find with them that it's going to be fine. I think you feel bad because, you wanted to be out more than you were. And then things happened and things got crazy. But I assure you, they are very comfortable with it. You can talk to them in your mind from home. You do not physically have to be there. I've worked with a group for 10 years now, and I only get out there about once or twice a year. and that's because they're in another state. I have another one that I work with that group in yet another state, and it's once a year I can get out there, but I mind speak continually to them. So when I do go out, it's like no time has passed. And they don't really have a good comprehension for time anyway. We created time, they didn't. So I think, mind speak to them. Even if you don't feel like you're getting it back, they are getting what you are sending. And that works really well to kind of bridge that gap. And they're going to read your intentions. So I think it's going to be much better than what you think it is. I think you feel bad because you haven't been able to get there as much as you would like. But I assure you, any contact I've had with them, and they do get hold of me now and then. And then, of course, I talk to them when you guys are getting ready to go out there. They're fine. They're a little worried about you, yes, but they are fine. So just mind speak with them. Talk to them in your head. You're already connected to them through the consciousness.
Well, I can understand that, and I can appreciate that. It's been tough, to watch a buddy go through those health issues and then not being able to get out there, because it is a unique place. And one of the things and the reason why I brought this up is I don't think, I'm not looking for a lot of sympathy for this or any sympathy at all over what happened with Tim getting sick and a recurring injury from years ago coming back. Tim James, that is, for people who remember. And I think for me, though, on that level, it's kind of a letdown, because on a number of areas, because of the way the people the listeners were on the edge of their seats when we were going out there. I mean, you kind of carry the interest in the people on your back,
Yeah.
that you're doing something that
Well, they're invested in it. They're invested in it. And I can understand that. I can. And, I think it'll work through it and you'll get that back again. It is unfortunate. It is. I mean, I would take it hard if I were you too. And it can make it very difficult, and definitely is a sad moment, not only because Tim is sick, but also because it slows things down. But you'll get that back. I have a firm belief in that, because they're not going to want you to be gone for good. They're just not going to.
Absolutely. And it does give you time to retool. Like, I'm going to have to retool and build a team for next year. And hopefully Tim will be back with that if he's feeling better at that point.
Right.
But I mean, the people, like, yes, we were out there doing it and we were having fun and everything. But the main thing the way we were trying to film it, and people could go look on our YouTube channel, Secrets of the Forest. The way we were trying to film it was to try and keep it as untouched and as amateur looking as possible.
Yeah.
So that way there was no real big edits. There was no real, controversy about adding sound or adding noise or music in the background. Because the one thing I hate about those paranormal television shows is all of a sudden they turn the music up and they're like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? No, all I heard was the background music being played. That's all I heard.
Yeah. And I think
we wanted to keep it as natural as possible.
Well, I think one of the good things about that too, that I liked about it, was you guys were keeping it real. Okay. You were doing these things, people were watching, and it gave people, I personally think, confidence where if they wanted to go out and try to get their own interaction, it was on a level where they could. It wasn't like a Hollywood stunt or anything. It was real. You guys were doing it, and I've said this many times before, you were doing it the correct way that is not only safe for you, but safe for the cryptids. But it was done in a context that other people could learn from it and do the same thing. And I think that's great, because people need to know that if they're going to do this, this is the safest way for you and the cryptids to go about it. So, I mean, I think that it was fantastic, and I think it will continue to be. It's just got to, you've got to get some things worked out to get there.
Robin Haynes and the Cryptid report, the Q&A continue right after this on Spaced Out Radio. We love it when Robin is on with us because she makes it so much fun. Final half hour of the show coming up right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Okay, yeah, this will give you time to regroup and revamp how you want to do it. I mean, actually, it's a better time for it now than if it was right in the middle of spring and summer.
Yes.
That would have been worse. It's like, and I'm not knocking any of these shows, so I don't want anybody to take it that way. But like, I don't watch any of the shows that they've got on TV, on Destination Truth or whatever, Expedition Bigfoot. I applaud the people that do it. I'm not knocking them or discrediting it at all. It's just not my thing.
Yeah,
It's hype. They run around. They're invasive to the cryptids. And, you don't know what's real and you don't know what's not real. That's what I loved about yours, was because it was real. It was heartfelt. It was respectful to all parties. And the cryptids were responding well to you because it was. So that, that's always a nice thing. Like I said, I'm not knocking anybody else's show. I don't know those people. I've never watched more than a couple minutes of the shows because I just don't care for that kind of thing. But, like what you guys were doing was good. It was great. And I think you'll get that back again. But if it was going to have a time to regroup, I think this is the best time for it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get it figured out. That's not going to be an issue, but we will get it figured out.
Yeah. And there's so many hunters out right now. I mean, the cryptids are at risk. They're nervous because, there's men with guns and bow and arrows and everything else running around. And, it's okay. Just if you're gonna, and my kids all hunted. I'm not a hunter. My kids all hunted. My ex-husband hunted. That's fine. But if you're going to take it, eat it, because you are taking food from these cryptids. So make sure you're going to eat it. You have that respect. And don't take more than what you need, because there's other things that need to eat off of them too.
Agreed. Very, very much.
Yeah, I was very lucky. My kids were very much, when they taught their children to hunt, it was you're not hunting just for a trophy. If you're not going to eat absolutely everything, you don't hunt at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or you donate the meat somewhere, but you make sure it's used and you don't take more than what you need. We're not out there to strip the land.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Well, people that don't really understand or even know about the cryptids don't realize that is their food source. We're going to go drive to Walmart or whatever grocery store that there is and get what we need. And there's nothing wrong with being a hunter. There's nothing wrong with living off the land. I mean, our forefathers did it. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're eating what you're taking.
Agreed.
But, the cryptids have to have it too. So I have yet to find, really, I've not talked to any hunters that have ever had a problem with them. I've talked to some that have said that they followed, the blood trail to the deer, and there was a Sasquatch picking it up and walking off with it. And that with, other animals as well. I have heard of that, but I've not heard of anybody getting hurt. Now, there was one gentleman I talked to that was just a very sweet, kind man, and he did have a Sasquatch yell at him and absolutely terrified him, but it yelled at him. It didn't harm him. It didn't do anything to him. But I've not heard of anybody getting hurt in any of, physically hurt in any of those altercations at all.
We have about a minute to go here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Thursday everything will probably be a bit off. And a lot of people aren't even going to notice it, to be honest with you. Depends on how intuitive they are, what frequency they're already at, as to whether or not they're going to pick up on it. It shouldn't last real long. It'll go through the day, but I think the high part of it isn't going to last overly long. So I think everybody will be fine. But, it's always nice to be aware that things could be a little wonky. And it seems to be starting to build the momentum up to Thursday because everybody's just kind of like all over the map right now.
For sure. For sure. We got about 19 seconds. Thank you to all of our super chatters, especially T-Bone tonight for giving away a pair of memberships along with Mel, Stargazer, ×2, and Kitty Caddywhack. We appreciate you. Here we go, everybody. We have Robin Haynes here on the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we try to jive with the nighttime racket of the cryptids and monsters that are wandering through our yards and forests each and every night. Want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Robin Haynes with the Cryptid Q&A, continuing on here. Robin, one of the topics that we've touched on, but we haven't really gone deep into, is the fact that when you get an area, whether it's Flight 21 or Skinwalker Ranch or all of these little nooks and crannies that have a plethora of high strangeness going on, a lot of people will go there and they will say, oh, I didn't feel anything. I didn't see anything. There's nothing going on there. But one thing that I've learned from Flight 21 over, because it's coming up a year from the time it started haunting me last year, is that the phenomena has a list of people who are allowed there and who are not.
Mm-hmm.
What is this about? This imaginary phenomena list that the phenomena needs to approve who can and cannot go out there to investigate.
Well, they do. I mean, you're going into their home. Doesn't matter if it's a cryptid, a spirit, a skinwalker, whatever. You are now going into their turf. So yeah, they're going to want to approve who's there. Just like when you're sitting at home, you're going to want to approve who you let come through your front door. Now, what determines that? I sound like a broken record, guys, but it's all the truth. Your frequency and your energy. If you don't have a high enough frequency, they do not want you around. Low frequency means trouble. People that are low frequency generally want to hurt something or hurt them, or they're low enough where it makes them uncomfortable. People with a higher frequency, when they are around a lower frequency person, your body reads frequency and energy before your brain will. Your body is made up of frequency, energy, and your consciousness. And so if you have a low frequency person and a high frequency person, it is very uncomfortable for both parties because they do not mesh. They cannot be in the same spot. That is why people we've met through our lifetime are mean to us, and we don't even know why. We don't know them, never done anything to them. That is why, because you are probably a higher frequency person and they're a lower frequency, or vice versa. So when you go out to these areas, if you do not have a high enough frequency, you are not going to be welcomed. It's a guaranteed thing. Okay. This is why when I teach my classes on the frequency, My people, when they're done, I mean, they're getting interaction, they're getting photos, they're getting mind speak. You have to be in that higher frequency to get that interaction. And so if you are out there and you are not a high enough frequency person, if they don't feel that your intent is right, they don't want you in their lives, they don't want you on their property, they don't want you by their family. You know, it's just like if you're sitting at home and there's somebody that just robbed a store near you, you don't want them in your house. You don't know what kind of a person that is. Are they going to rob you? Are they going to, treat you badly? Are they dangerous? Not any different. And so that is how everybody is rated, to be very honest. They read your frequency, they know what it is before you do. And they know your intent. And if it does not match what that clan is all about, you're done. They don't want you there. And they will go completely quiet. So you think that there's nothing there. But take a person that's a higher frequency, that they think, intuitively their intent is good. And you do start to see more action, or at the very least, you will have a calm feeling when you're in that area, which is a way of them accepting you and giving you the opportunity to prove yourself respectfully to them. And then they will have interaction with you. But if you're low frequency and you go out there, you're either going to get the wall of fear, you're going to feel uncomfortable there, or it is just going to feel like there is nothing that's ever been there. And they do that specifically to make you not want to be there.
I find that the phenomena is something that you have to pay attention to. It's uncomfortable. And in seeing people be up there, and it happened a couple of times when we were up there this year with my father, bringing him up, because I could tell they were okay with him there, but they didn't want him to get hurt because he's elderly.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Another friend that we brought up there, you could tell that the phenomena did not want him there. So the question is, how does the phenomena pick and choose who they like, who they don't? Is it a selfish thing? Is it a personal thing? Are they picking up on the frequency and energy of the person and then saying, nah, we're not coming out to play with this guy around?
It's 100% your frequency and energy. Now, if you go out in an area, let's say you went to a certain area and some cryptids were there and they were not the nicest, okay? They're going to make you feel uncomfortable because they don't want you there because your frequency is too high. I mean, theirs is always going to be higher, but they're not going to want anybody that cheerful, that with the frequency at your level there, because they don't want to be bothered by us. Our people kill what we don't understand. We have done terrible things to these cryptids. And so they are not going to want that person there for whatever reason, because their frequency isn't high enough, their intent isn't pure enough, and they don't feel safe. And they aren't going to want them there. It could be something that they did in their past that they consider inexcusable. Most of the time, they don't expect people to be perfect, as long as you have never in your past, harmed people willfully. You're not torturing animals. You're not trying to kill somebody. You're not beating your partner, hurting a child. Those kind of things, that energy and frequency and the karma that brings, they will not accept. They just are not going to risk it. But, if you are what they consider pure of heart, which means you're a good-hearted person, doesn't mean you've never done anything wrong. We're not made to be perfect. We've all done things wrong. But it's not a life-threatening thing. So as long as they think you're pure of heart, which means, you have a good heart about you, you want good for people, you don't want to harm anything, and they pick up that you're just there to observe and enjoy, you're going to be fine. Your frequency will be high enough where it's not uncomfortable to them, and they're not going to view you as a threat. It's just like when you're around dogs. Some dogs are perfectly fine with everybody, and then one certain person will come by and they're growling. That person is a lower frequency. Animals are very intuitive. They are a high frequency being, and they can pick up on the low and the high, and they're going to growl at the low one. And then they'll be accepting of others. It goes the same way. They literally are the best judge of character you'll ever have.
I can see that. I can see that. We got a couple audience questions here. Let's get right to them. All right. Joe's saying, Robin, while listening, I just got a set of eyes looking at me from the woods. Are the big feet watching me?
Let me see. You've got those 3 of them out there that go there all the time. He's got, I mean, there's a bunch of them that go through his place, but there's certain 3 that have watched him for years. They just adore him. And even when he thinks that they're not around, those 3 will still wander in and out. Like, they keep a close eye on him. They may not be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but those 3 specifically will keep an eye on him. And those are the ones that are out there now. The rest of the clan will wander through, but they aren't through as often as these 3.
All right, let's move on. Great question from Sherry here. How do you tell what kind of frequency you have?
For a regular individual, it's kind of hard. If you're, if you have a kind heart, if you're well-intended, if you're trying to be helpful to people and you care about people, then please know your frequency is at a good level. But we are in the middle of this shift where it's raising. Okay. So people that know how to read energy signatures, like myself, and there's countless others, I'm not the only one. They are able to tell you, maybe not the exact number on your frequency, but they will be able to tell you whether or not you are out of that third dimension of frequency and you've gone into the higher ones. And so the best way you can tell is if do you laugh a lot? Are you relatively happy? Everybody gets depressed at times. That's normal. But are you generally a happy person? Are you a kind person? Do you care about, other people? Are you good to animals? Are you good to children? Or if you don't like being around animals and children, are you at least kind to them when you are around them? If you put forth an effort in your life to be a decent person, that doesn't mean you're perfect all the time, doesn't mean you never have a bad day, but a decent person, then you do have that better frequency. If you're a person that is not thinking about harming anybody or negative thoughts, or you're not that person that gets on Facebook and just attacks everybody just so that you can hear yourself speak, then your frequency is up. If you want to raise your frequency, do something you enjoy, laugh, find joy in things, watch a funny movie, have a bowl of ice cream, pet your pet. Things that bring you joy raise your frequency. So if you have a kind heart, well, none of us are perfect. You are going to actually have at least your baseline frequency, which will be good. Then once you start with the energy work and other things, your frequency goes even higher. But your baseline, if you, are, like I said, a kind-hearted person, you are not looking to harm other people. You put your best foot forward. We all have our bad days. That's fine. That's not going to hurt you at all, or with them. But, laugh, enjoy your life. Enjoy those few moments that we get our fun, and do things that you like, and your frequency is going to be up. So you're going to be fine.
What type of frequency resonates with cryptids? And is that frequency different from each cryptid?
Everybody has their own energy signature, so everybody's frequency will be different. There are no 2 the same. When I teach Mind Speak classes, one of the things I insist on teaching is learning to read energy signatures, because everybody's is different. There are no 2 signatures that the same. If you're mind speaking, which is what most of the people that I work with, their goal is, you could be talking to something that says it's Winnie the Pooh and talking to it for a month, and then all of a sudden something comes in and says, oh yeah, it's me, I'm Winnie the Pooh, and it's the devil incarnate. It's so vital that you learn to read energy signatures, and you take that with you when you go out into the woods. When you go out into an area and you can feel the energy that comes out of it, you're going to know which one it is. You're going to know whether that's a good one or a bad one. It's going to tell you that whole story. The other thing that I've noticed is when your frequency gets high enough and you learn to read the signatures, eventually, not at first, but eventually, when you pick up an energy signature and it hits your collective consciousness, 9 out of 10 times they will put an image of themselves in your mind. So you're going to see in your mind what you're talking to, even if it's cloaked and you can't physically see it. because in that higher frequency, you start looking your eyes, you look through your eyes in a paranormal spectrum, which is different than looking in a third dimensional spectrum. We miss a lot when our frequency is low enough that we're looking through 3D eyes. When your frequency is higher and you're looking in a higher frequency, you start to see things dart across the room. You know, whether it be a little person that's in your house, a spirit, a cryptid, whatever. Same thing out in the woods. You're going to see things moving around that you didn't see before, even if it's just in shadow form. But it's because your frequency is now high enough to see things through that paranormal spectrum. It literally changes your life. It's a game changer.
Do you think then, you know, and I've had a lot of people approach me about this, you know, especially as we get closer to Halloween night. A lot of people at this time of the year, as you know, they tend to get a little bit of a yearning to freak themselves out.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of people out there too who I've talked to. They're like, man, I would love to go out and chase down a Bigfoot. I would love to be able to go see a dogman or something along this lines. You know, what about those people who don't really have an understanding of it? Does their frequency get picked up by Sasquatch or the dogman or the other cryptids?
Absolutely. And it's lower because in the middle of that, it's all I, what they want to do. It's ego driven. When you get into that I factor, it's all ego. Ego does not work with cryptids. It's like putting oil and flames together. It does not work with cryptids. When you are doing I want, you are now lowering your frequency, because while you can want things, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly fine. But when you just make your decisions on what you're going to do, you think about the other party involved. Now, you're talking about something that is not in our culture. They have their own culture. So now you have people running around, and I've heard people tell me for years, oh, the Sasquatch think it's great when their people are in costumes. No, they don't. Anyone I've ever talked to, I'm not saying that there's none out there that don't enjoy it, but none of the ones I've ever talked to like it. It scares the crap out of them because they don't know what's going on. They don't understand it. I had somebody come to my house and put a stuffed Sasquatch on their shoulder and was going to run around in the woods. And I cannot even tell you how fast I kicked him off my property. You don't play games with cryptids. Okay, yes, they have a funny sense of humor. They don't understand that humor. You are now scaring them because your frequency, your energy is your energy signature, just like a thumbprint. So if they know, even if they know who you are, they're going to pick out at you, but they're going to see you in another physical form. They will figure out it's you, and they will think that you are trying to trick them. It is inbred in them that everything that we do with our type of humans is a trap, or we're trying to trick them. Getting their trust is not easy, but it's a must in order to work with them. That's the bridge. Your energy and your frequency and building that respect and trust. So you go out there and you're looking like something else and you're chasing them around, never goes well. Doesn't mean they're going to hurt you, but it doesn't go well.
3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. And going into Halloween, people telling creepy stories, going into Halloween, people playing with things like Ouija boards and all sorts of interesting, you know, tarot cards or whatever it may be. Your thoughts overall on people who use the month of Halloween to maybe test their limits a little bit on the high strangeness?
Well, I've worked with a lot of people that got hurt doing things like that. Okay. A Ouija board is just a board. It's the intent that you use when you use that Ouija board that people can get hurt. I've talked to so many people that have called things in that they never intended, even though they were trying to do something good. You know, there's consequences to everybody's actions. As far as Halloween goes, take your kids trick-or-treating. Go to a Halloween party. I went to one last weekend. Enjoy yourself, but don't go to the dark side of it. Okay? Enjoy it for what it is, a time that you can celebrate it with your kids, whatever. You know, I know a lot of people that don't agree with Halloween, a lot of people that do. You can enjoy it. but don't turn it into such a spookville that you're scaring other things or getting these Ouija boards. Remember, a Ouija board is only a board, but the intent that you use when you use it can open up things that you don't know how to control. And for people that think they can control them, that is ego driven. That is low frequency. That is bad. Ego does not work in any of this. Okay? You just can't have the ego. It's okay to be confident in what you can do. That's wonderful. But when that ego kicks in and it becomes the I, when you go on a Ouija board, it is an I thing because you personally want to go in and contact the dead to see if you can do it. That's ego driven. And when you unleash that, whatever you pull out, you don't know that you can control it. You can't control it. There are things in this world that we have no control over. So we need to be able to control the things we can and respect what we can't. We don't ever want to put anybody else at risk. So enjoy the holiday, take the kids out, let them trick or treat. Please be careful when you're trick or treating with the kids because our world is not the safest right now. Enjoy it. Like I said, I went to a Halloween party last Saturday. It was beautiful. I had a wonderful time. Family, friends, kids, it was great. We didn't do Ouija boards. We don't do things that can call in bad spirits or things that can linger on after and damage people. You can have a good time without that. The cryptids are more than willing to work with people. They are more than willing, most of them, not all. Some of them have been burnt by us so bad they want to get out and they don't want us near them. But the ones that are willing to work with us will, if you come with a pure heart and a higher frequency. For people that don't know how to do that, find somebody that can teach you how. If you want to get hold of me, you can. But if not, there's other people that can do it as well. And that's how you bridge that gap. Everybody asks me, you've had contact with them your whole life. Well, how? I'm higher frequency. And I put in the work to get there. I'm not perfect. Trust me, I have a ton of faults. I am not any better than anybody else. But try to be kind to each other. That's the beginning of it. Okay, that will get your frequency going up. Do the earthwork, do the grounding. Learn how to tap into your frequency. They respond to that. If your frequency is negative, you're getting negative back from them. And I'm talking about the good ones. I'm not talking about the ones that get cranky because they just don't like us. I'm talking about the good ones.
Robin, it's that time where we have to say goodnight to you. Thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Much appreciated as we say goodnight to Robin. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Robinator.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
You are the best.
I love you. I love everybody.
Will, call you on the weekend when I figure out what's happening with.
Yeah.
I
will be around. I will grab the phone.
All right, beautiful. You take care. Okay.
I love you. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let me just quickly get this off. So for everybody else, I will be heading over to Sandy Diva's channel to talk some Mandela effect and some other weird stuff. I just got to get this cut up. Oh my God, my fingers aren't working. All right, while we're doing that, let's get this going here. Like this. Bring that up. Like that. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. If you guys want to head over, I'm just going to cut this feed right here. And I'm going to be joining the other feed here in a few minutes. And we'll see you over. You guys, Paramarvis put the link into Sandy Diva's channel. So I will see you guys over there, okay? See you guys.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.